So we're back with Umineko, and we're here in episode 7 where we were introduced to Shremia Leon and Willard Huntington Wright, I guess. So this is the game of the Witch Bernkastel, and this is the 7th game overall, and we're investigating the death of Beatrice in full, I guess. Don't know how far this will go in revealing the plot of the game. I don't think they'll still leave some I guess they'll leave something for episode 8, but I do think that this is like more of an epilogue than anything, because we're just bringing in a foreign character that is much more detective-like than Battler was, I guess. So let's see. He also has now the authority of feathering, whatever that means. We only seen the authority of the detective. That just makes people just tell everything to the detective, basically, without revealing any. I don't know how that worked actually, but well, I think I'm on the right path. But well, let's keep going. We're in Kinzo and Genji could be seen in the VIP room. Kinzo was sitting back in a chair, his eyes closed as though in a troubled sleep.
親方様、お客様がお見えになりました。
It has been some time that I've seen Kinzo. Kinzo slowly opened his eyes. Those eyes were red from crying, regained their focus and slowly fell on Will.
私が後宮金蔵である。
ウィル。
ウィラードだ。お悔やみ申し上げる。
ベアトリーチェの葬儀に訪ねてくるとは、そなたは何者なのか。
誰でもない。誰とも関係ない。深く考えるな。頭痛になら。
I guess that's the...
もう少し言葉遣いにご注意をお願いいたします。
おかしな客人だ。それでこの私に何用か。
Since Leon hasn't been referred to as a gender, well, kind of, but well, I'll just say that they're they, basically, so I won't be.
ベアトリーチェのことを聞きたい。
何?
Kinzo's gaze grew sharp. Leon felt a bit lightheaded and wondered why this guy had to be so direct.
聞いてどうする？お前は誰でもないのであろう。ベアトリーチェのことを知ってどうするという。何の意味があるというのか。
俺が誰でもないからこそお前の物語を公正に聞き残すことができる。お前はじきにこの世を去るだろう。その時ベアトリーチェのことを何も語らずに死んだなら、お前の子供たちは彼らが好き勝手に考えた物語でベアトリーチェを修飾し記録に残すだろう。
I think his granddaughter already did that.
面白い若造だ。お前は遺言屋を気取ろうというわけか。だがそれは余計なお世話というものよ。ベアトリーチェは私だけのベアトリーチェだ。誰が何を語ろうとも私とあれの物語は誰にも怪我せん。何の意味も持たぬ。グラウスたちがどう曲解しようとも痛くも痒くもないわ。
ウィラード様、親方様は遺言を好まれません。生きているうちより何事かを投げ出すお方ではございません。
だろうな。らしからぬこととは思っていた。
誠意ある限りあがいてこそ人間であろうが、それを早々に諦め遺言に残そうという浅ましさなど少子千万。
確かにその方がお前らしい。
Did he wear the ring on his right hand?
死ぬかもしれないから過去語りを記せと言い出すのは確かにお前の柄じゃねえ。
当主様がベアトリーチェ様のことを深く深く愛しておられたことは存じ上げております。私たちにとって当主様は最大の尊敬の対象であるとともに生きる全ての模範です。どうか迷える私たちのために、いかにしておじい様が彼女を愛し抜いたか、愛ゆえに生き抜いたか、その愛の強さを私たちにお導きくださるようお願いすることはできないでしょうか。
Leon is good with words.
なかなか達者だ。
あなたが言葉を選ばないからです。
若造、お前はベアトリーチェの何を知っているというのか。真に無知なる者は関心さえ持たぬ。ベアトリーチェの名を知っている時点で無知なる者ではなく縁なき者でもない。
通りだな。俺が知っているベアトリーチェはお前がかつてロッケン島に屋敷を設ける以前に出会った最愛の女だ。しかしおそらくは死別して娘を残した。それがクアドリアンで育てられていた娘だ。
He'll not take kindly to that. I think he'll say that she was Beatrice reincarnated again.
ウィラード様、当ロッケン島にはクアドリアンなる建物は存在いたしません。
That has already been revealed that there was the red truth.
そのクアドリアンという名前、さっきローザおばさんと話した時にも口にしていました。それは一体何なんですか？
察しはついてるはずだ。愛人の娘を囲うロッケン島の森の奥深くにある隠し屋敷の名だ。
面白い。クワドリアンの名を知ろうとはな。続けよ。お前に興味が出たぞ。
Kinzo shrugged and grinned.
クアドリアンにいたのはベアトリーチェの娘だろう。だが少なくともお前はそうは思っていなかった。
ほう、ならば何だと思っていたというのか。
後ろ宮ローザはクアドリアンにて多少の身の上話を交わしている。その中でベアトリーチェはお前のことを指して金蔵と呼んでいる。これはお前を前にしても同じだ。彼女はお前を父と思っていると言ったにもかかわらず父とは呼んでいなかった。呼ばなかったのか、呼ぶことは許されなかったのか。それが意味することは一つしかない。
それは何だというのか。
生まれ変わりだ。お前は娘を忘れがたみだとは思わなかった。死んだベアトリーチェが新しい体で蘇ったと信じたんだ。源氏、あんたはかつて夏日たちの前で金蔵とベアトリーチェに子供はいなかったと証言したことがあるな。
Yeah, Willard is just revealing what we already went through and what we already kind of rationalized the past few episodes. And yeah, since episode 3 basically, things has been led to that direction, I guess.
記憶にございませんが。
Of course, this game's Genji probably wouldn't remember that. However, near the end of the first game, the survivors had all gathered in the Kinzo's study. Genji was asked whether Kinzo and Beatrice ever had a child together. He denied it, saying, "I have not heard anything like that."
聞いたことがないか。ある意味で金蔵の腹心らしい模範的な返答と言える。何しろ金蔵にとってその娘は生まれ変わりであって娘ではないんだからな。
ウィル
More appropriate question would be if Kinzo had a granddaughter, Beatrice.
何の話か分かりませんが当主様への冒涜は許しません。
冒涜じゃねえ、推理だ。だが心は理解する。ベアトリーチェはお前にとって最愛の女だった。死んでも色あせることなく永遠に。だが美しい金髪に青い瞳を持ち、お前は次第に生まれ変わりではないかと信じるようになったとしても、それはおかしいことじゃねえ。
I guess Shannon started growing up, and then that painting was made. But I don't think that Kinzo would have done the same mistakes because he was already grieving like he did with his daughter.
親方様、よろしいのですか？
Shall I drag this rude child out? Genji asked Kinzo. For a while, Kinzo hung his head in silence, as though remembering something from his own past.
娘は美しく育ち生き写しになった。お前は狂気したろうな。だがそれでお前が全て満たされていたかは怪しい。なぜならお前にとってベアトリーチェは生まれ変わりであっても当の本人にとってはそうではなかったからだ。
なぜそのようなことがわかるのか。
本人は自分がベアトリーチェと呼ばれることに違和感を拭えずにいた。人は生まれながらに与えられた自分の名前に違和感を覚えることはない。だが彼女は覚えた。それはベアトリーチェという名が自分のものではないことを。彼女
In Kodoring, she asked both Kinzo and Rose about who she
わらわ
was.
は何者なのか。皆はわらわのことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。それは確かにそなたの言うように偉大な魔女の名前らしい。しかしそれはわらわではないのだ。わらわには魔法など何も使えぬ。わらわはその魔女の魂をこの身に封じられているだけなのだ。
記憶はいずれ戻ったのだ。
Piece of shit.
あれは紛れもなくベアトリーチェの生まれ変わり。記憶は戻りつつあった。我が魔術の儀式によってわずかずつではあるが、記憶を取り戻しつつあった。
Magical ceremonies, huh? Uh-huh. Piece of shit.
当主様。
驚くことじゃねえ。これまでのゲームの情報を並べりゃ導かれる。上層のベアトリーチェはそれを指して死んで逃れた魔女の魂を逃さず肉の体に捉えて閉じ込めたと。そして記憶も力も封じられていると例えた。その解釈もこの推理なら筋が通る。
ウィラード様、親方様は偉大なる魔法の儀式により亡きベアトリーチェ様の生まれ変わりの赤子を得たのでございます。それを否定することはできません。
A reborn child of the dead Beatrice.
コウノトリを否定はしねえ。そして金蔵がどれだけベアトリーチェという女を深く愛していたかも疑う。忘れがたみにどういう愛情を注ぐかは人の勝手だ。育つほどに似ていくその姿に金蔵が愛ゆえに特別な感情を持ったとしても俺はそれを人間らしい感情だと思うぜ。
お前に我が愛が理解できるというのか。
理解する資格はねえ。だが否定する資格もねえ。
ベアトリーチェ、私を許してくれ。
Kinzo sobbed quietly for a while, wiping away his tears. Because of love, he believed that she would be Beatrice reborn and raise her that way. However, somewhere in his heart, he might have felt pangs of conscience, telling him that he might be forcing his emotions on someone who wasn't really Beatrice. Then the Beatrice of Guadorian had an unexpected guest, Rosa. That woman simply couldn't believe that she was Beatrice the Kinzo desired. Couldn't stand the fact that she didn't understand who she was, and she wanted to escape to the outside world. And she fell. Then she fell from the cliff and died.
源氏は表に出せぬその死を内々で処理した。そう仕切ったのは死者のためにやるんじゃねえ。生きてる人間が死んだ人間への未練を断ち切るために行うもんだ。それができなかった。だからただれたんだ。
ベアトリーチェ。
おじい様。
あんたは愛人の娘を、いやベアトリーチェを2度失った。その悲しみを表に出すことができず胸の奥に押し込み、それがやがてただれて狂気に変わった。それが晩年まで異常なまでのオカルト趣味に駆り立てる。
And since Shannon couldn't replace the two of them, he slowly started realizing that, yeah, she was actually dead. And then came that, oh yes, my daughter wasn't Beatrice. And I'm an actual fool.
ベアトリーチェ、ベアトリーチェ。なぜに二度までも私の前から去るのか。お前の微笑みを、その美しい髪を、瞳を、私は二度も抱きしめながら、なぜに二度も死すのか。
Die in my arms.
それほどまでに私を。
By now, Kinzo wasn't even trying to suppress his sobs. He sometimes scratched his head in anguish, sometimes faced the heavens like an opera singer. Kinzo yelled over and over again, repeating Beatrice's name. At that moment, there was a quiet sound of the door closing. When they turned around, she was already there. Kumasawa had appeared.
そこまでをご存知でしたら、もうすべてをお話ししてもよろしいのではありませんか。
そこまでを知るなら、
I knew it.
これ以上何も語ることなどないとも思うが。
いいえ、語るべきでございます。
I think Kumasawa raised Shannon, right? I think that was what happened afterwards. And then the legend of the witch came to be known by Shannon, and then the little pranks, maybe, on the house at night. Yeah. Then she tried to act like her mother, the witch. Yeah, that's my working theory. I'm remembering now.
私は女としてクアドリアンのベアトリーチェ様のお心を誰かに伝えねばと思ってまいりました。そしてその資格を持つ人間が現れました。
I love the music.
今こそ全てを包み隠さずお話しすべき時かと存じます。
熊沢さんは知っているのですか、ベアトリーチェのことを。
知ってるだろう。第4のゲームの時、連絡船の船長は熊沢がクワドリアンに出入りしていたことを証言している。おそらく熊沢は屋敷とクワドリアンの双方で 異なる勤務シフトを持っていたに違いない。
Wasn't that from the outside world where Angie was?
若い娘の世話だ。育児経験の豊富な熊沢はさぞ重宝されただろう。
さようでございます。乳母であったとおっしゃっていただいてもよろしいかと思います。
2 generations, I think.
そんな、信じられない。本当にウィルさんの話は本当なんですか？
はい、事実でございます。ベアトリーチェ様のために島の反対側に建てられた秘密の屋敷、クワドリアンの存在は真実でございます。
金蔵が正妻といつ結婚したかは知らねえが、当時すでに莫大な財産を持ち、六軒島を丸ごと買い取った金蔵は交わらぬ2つの屋敷を建てて、そこに2つの生活を両立させたんだ。
Kinzo's children had also been aware of Kinzo's clandestine eccentricities at the time. Probably hadn't been easy to maintain 2 separate lives. Moreover, Kinzo's wife had been suspicious and had sniffed out around all the time.
親方様はお時間の許す限りクワドリアンへ通われました。時にはご出張と偽られ、何日も滞在され、ベアトリーチェ様との生活を大切になさいました。それは親子としての関係だけでなく、亡きベアトリーチェ様への深い愛を垣間見れる心温まるものでございましたとも。
No.
それは亡きベアトリーチェの代用品として扱ったこともあったと言っているようにも聞こえるな。
おや、そう聞こえたなら申し訳ございません。ベアトリーチェ様は父からの愛は一心に受けられていたでしょう。しかし時にご自身に理解できぬ愛を強いられていたことは
Forced to
否定
bear.
できません。
Kumasawa's tone made it sound as though she was scolding Kinzo. As a mother who has raised many kids, Kumasawa had probably spotted that Kinzo's love was sometimes misplaced. However, the more she grew to look like her mother, the more distorted and twisted Kinzo's heart became. Because of his deep love, it grew very, very twisted. Yeah, that's already been...
なじれ我が友よ、分かっておる。我が愛は永遠に不滅。なれどそれが間違った相手に注がれたことがあったの。私は認めねばならぬ。
You raped her, that's what you mean.
おじい様、そんな、まさか。
リオン様、世の中のすべての人間には必ず何かの縁がございます。身に覚えがなくとも必ず何かの縁がございます。その縁が人に絡みつき引き寄せるのでございます。
そんな、おじい様。
Just as Kinzo had done, Leon also wiped away tears and stared down at the floor. Apparently, the truth had been too much for a shock for the young successor to handle.
親方様、
Leon.
もう語る時ではございませんか。
そうか、その時が来たか。我が友よ。
あんたが語らなきゃ何も真実は明らかにならない。
親方様、もはや知る権利と資格があるかと思います。
分かっている。今日という私の気まぐれな葬儀に天のベアトリーチェが贖罪の機会を与えたのだろう。今日まで話さなかったことを許せ。
After taking a deep breath, Kinzo finally lowered the hands that had been covering his face and looked at Will and Lion with those red eyes.
おじい様。
リオンも聞け。客人よ、ウィラードと言ったか。
ああ、
この私が自らの口より真実を話せるうちにこの機会を設けてくれたことを感謝する。 お前はきっとベアトリーチェより使わされた天の使いに違いない。
Far from the
感謝
truth.
する。
その機会を設けたのはベアトリーチェじゃねえ、どこぞの魔女だ。いや、どっちも魔女には違いね。
お前が誰でもよい。私に機会を与えた。それで十分だ。感謝するぞ、ウィラードとやら。
Kinzo slowly stood up and held out his right hand. He was offering to shake hands. It must have been Kinzo's way of expressing his gratitude. Will responded, and the two hands gripped each other tightly in silence. Oh, Blue Truth? When they did, a bright light poured out from the gap between the two hands. No? Will felt as though something the size of grain had burned itself into his palm. It was the power that Burnt Castle had given him. The light grew brighter and brighter. However, it seemed that Kinzo and the others couldn't see it.
今こそ語ろう。私がベアトリーチェに、ベアトリーチェ・カスティリオーニに出会ったのは終戦間際。
Beatrice Castiglioni.
彼女は海の向こうからやってきた。
Just before the end of the war, so she's... So this is the first Beatrice. Oh? Is this...
お前は金蔵なのか。
昔のおじい様です。
I thought it was Battler for a sec.
写真
Oh.
で見たことがあります。
Oh,
これは
it's
一体
it's really
ベルン
similar,
カステル
dude.
のくれた感激者の力だ。無理に理解するな。
頭痛になら
分かってきたな。
Oh my god, he looks so close to Battler, though. At one time, Genji told Battler that he looked like Kinzo in his youth. Sure enough, though the young Kinzo wasn't exactly the same as Battler, they looked very similar.
改めて名乗ろう。
Yeah, Battler has red hair and blue eyes.
私が後宮金蔵である。
おじい様。
Same voice actor. Even the voice seemed to resemble Battler somehow. Clearly, Battler had inherited Kinzo's blood more thickly than any other.
私は後宮家など継ぎたくはなかった。私が当主に選ばれたのは運命のいたずらに過ぎぬのだ。
関東大震災で主だった者が死に絶え、分家筋のお前が抜擢された。
そうです。おじい様は若くとも聡明な方で、当主にふさわしい貫禄を若くしてお持ちの方でしたから。
とんでもない。欲深な長老たちは互いの利益ばかりを主張し合い、新しい当主を選び出すことさえできなかったのだ。
Oh my god, the personality also, dude.
まるで
The rebel personality.
沈みゆく船で新しき船長は誰かと議論するような愚かさよ。
But yeah, the way of speaking still is very old and much more calculated, I guess.
だからこそ本家の誰ともしがらみのないお前が突然に抜擢を受けた。
全てはこの足の指のせいだ。
I do wonder about I do want
足の指が一本ずつ足りなかったなら我が人生は全く異なるものになっていたであろう。
I do wonder about Rudolph. I do wonder. In the Ushirimiya family, polydactyly was seen as a mark of good fortune. After all, many of the great ones in family history had possessed it.
くだらぬ話よ。長老どもは自分たちの誰も得をしない馬の骨であれば誰でもよかったのだ。
たまたま分家筋に両足の指が6本ある者がいると耳に入り、それでいいと決まったわけか。
そういうことだ。長老どもは自分たちの操り人形になるならどこの青にさえでもよかったのだ。むしろ帝王学に無知な人間ほど好ましい。
おじい様。
リオン、お前は違う。お前は我が全てを受け継ぐものだ。お前が生を受けた日よりそれは運命づけられていた。
New piece
だからこそお前に銀の指輪を与え厳しく育ててきた。
raised
そなたは私とは違う。誰にも恥じることのない立派な当主跡継ぎであるぞ。
あ
はい。
操り人形の当主か。気楽なものじゃねえだろうな。
As he pondered about where to begin, Kinzo laughed bitterly. It was probably to bring back painful memories no matter where he started from.
あれはあまりに長い灰色の日々であった。それは私には岩に蒸す苔のような気の遠くなるほど長い死んだ時間。
I became the rope of the tug of war between the elders, thought of nothing but their own profit. And I probably couldn't have snapped at any moment. However, people are far more resilient than one would think. Though I spent so many days as though I had been killed, I was not killed. People don't die when they are killed. So, I was forced to search for death on my own. Before I realized it, I had reached an age which the young would laugh at me if I tried to call myself young. A dizzyingly long stretch of gray was left completely empty. It lasted for a full 20 years. In 20 years, a person can be born, find a purpose, and even become their own man with their own place in the world. In short, if one truly becomes a human, only when they have become a working adult. And I spent a period of time long enough to create a human, doing nothing but playing the part of those greedy elders' puppet. Ironically, though that time aged my body, I did not age my mind. My mind alone was still as young as it had been during those rich, happy days before I was summoned to Odawara. And yet, my body alone grew older and older. Eventually, the vast gap between the two reached almost incomprehensible levels. So I could hardly believe that a worn-out man in the mirror was really me. No, it really wasn't me. The head of the Ushiramiya family was just a name. It had no power. It didn't require that I had any independence. There was no need for me to get involved with anything. It was just a doll sitting there on the doll rack, gathering dust. I remember doing nothing, but lazily flipping through Western books I like, locking myself up inside my own world, doing nothing but playing with the roses and drinking terrible drinks. It lasted a full 20 years. Before I knew it, I suddenly had a wife I did not know. It wasn't any wife I had chosen. It was the daughter of some noble family the elders had chosen and forced on me for their own reasons. That did not matter to me. I did not love my wife. Neither did I dislike her. I just did not care. I fathered a few children, but that wasn't out of love for my wife. They were just born before I knew it. That's all there was to it. None of it mattered. No, that's not quite right. Everything was decided by someone other than me, and I simply obeyed. That was the job the Ushiramiya family had.
ああ、このまま自分は静かに殺されるなとうっすらと感じていた。
信じられません。強胆なる名君と称えられたおじい様がそのような日々を送っていたなんて。
リオンよ、自ら生きぬ人生ほど希薄で長いものはない。なのにそれはあっという間に過ぎ去るのだ。心せよ。
自ら生きる人生。
生きるってことは意志を持つということだ。殺された日々だったろうよ。
そうだ。 私は生きたかった。いや、死にたかった。操り人形はどうすれば死ねる？
糸を断ち切ることです。
そうだ。それが死ぬことであり、生きることであり、解放だ。
Before I realized that trouble was brewing in the world. World War II, Pacific War. Japan had extended their war fronts too far to the east and west. The tide of war was changing. Thanks to the influence of the elders, I was able to avoid conscription. Of course, this was not out of compassion for me, it was because I was their precious puppet. The war never really felt that close to me, where when I personally decided to abandon their protection, it was very easy. By the time the Ushirimiya family had almost completely collapsed, and since the elders had apparently gathered enough of their scraps to last them the rest of their lives, they seemed to care little for what I did, now that they no longer had any use for me. So I realized that I had finally found my time to die. One by one, I cut the threads I was hanging from, and began to search for a place to end my life.
戦地で死を求めようとしたのか。
同じ死ぬなら誰かの役に立つべきと思った。いや、違うな。私には自らの命を絶つ気力さえなかったのだろう。もっともらしく死ねる理由が戦争だったのだ。
おじい様は土木建築の知識がありましたので、海軍設営隊にて施設造成などに従事されたと聞いています。
とんだ誤算よ。何の取り柄もないと言っておけば、すぐにも死ねる最前線へ送られたものを。
最前線に行かずに済んだのか。
幸いと喜ぶ仲間もいたよ。私には逆だった。戦って死ぬという出来すぎた美酒の焼け酒が欲しかっただけなのだ。忘れられた島の上空を米軍の編隊は横切っていくだけ。
Forgotten Island.
彼らは私のために
Rokkenjima?
爆弾一つどころか鉛玉の一つさえ恵んではくれなかったのだよ。
おじい様はその日々の中でベアトリーチェにお会いになられたのですか？
そうだ。あれは海からやってきた。
Beatrice.
島と言ったが。
ここだよ。この島にやってきたのだ。
お前たちは六軒島で出会っていたというのか。
どういうことですか？おじい様が六軒島を買い取るまでは無人島だったと聞いています。この島に日本軍の基地があったなどとは初耳です。
そうだな。あんなものは基地とは呼ばぬ。ただの岩窟よ。私はその岩窟の番人だったのだ。
Cave. Is the underground passage? 1944. Due to the honorable defeats at Saipan and Guam, Japan's absolute national defense zone strategy was in shambles. Where had the gallantry shown at Pearl Harbor had gone? The old attackers were now the ones on the defensive. At the time, it was said that in the last trump card for the Japanese military was a type of man torpedo known as the Kaiten. It was said that these ultimate weapons, packed with 1.55 tons of explosives, were capable of sinking any kind of warship with a single blast. To strengthen the homeland defense, the Navy drafted a plan to build a string of hidden bases from the Hachijo Islands to Yokosuka to all to house submarines located with Kaiten torpedoes. Submarine base.
が作られたことは知っていました。しかしそれが六軒島にもあったなんて。
どこの間抜けがこんな何もない島に作ろうと言い出したやら。一苦情の都合。バカバカしい。お上の考えることなどわからぬし、私にとってもどうでもいいことだった。
Rokkenjima is on the east of Tokyo, right? So it kind of makes a little bit of sense. The kaiten, which could finish off a large warship with a single strike, truly was an ultimate weapon. It was hoped that the presence of submarines capable of loading these weapons in the waters just off Japan would allow for a powerful sea ambush as a final line of defense. So, to aid in the establishment of a base with absolute secrecy, the uninhabited island of Rokkenjima was raised as a possible candidate. An investigation of the island resulted in the discovery of a large cave in the cliffs, and that was apparently deemed to be a suitable location for a submarine base.
お前はその基地の建設に関わったわけか。
Construction.
建設岩窟を掘り広げただけを建設と呼ぶならな。しかもその上基地は未完成のまま放置されたのだから。
Abandoned. So.
どうしてです？
Year passed. Surrender.
当時の日本にそいつを詰めるほどの大型潜水艦はもう残っていなかったのよ。滑稽な話だ。潜水艦もないのに潜水艦基地など今さら必要なものか。
Fail in logistics.
役人の無意味な箱物作りは今も昔も変わらぬわ。
Base on Hachijo Island was outfitted with Kaiten torpedoes and became a base for direct attacks. Rokkenjima was never supplied with any. Furthermore, the construction was eventually suspended, and a minimum number of men were stationed on the island waiting for orders from above that never came. The fact that this was a hidden base actually had sealed our fate. The higher-ups had already completely forgotten about this useless and pointless cavern. We were nothing more than guards for a mere cavern. We spent our days farming, fishing, and playing with the dirt, all the while gazing up at the American formation flying past. Some of our group were relieved at the prospect of the war ending before anyone remembered we were here, and before any of us had to face a real battle. Of course, it was the opposite for me. I hoped and hoped for the American troops to advance and kill me as soon as possible. Those days were empty and blank. Let us go back to the turning point of my life and my fate, the time that Ushirimiya Kinzo finally became truly alive. Hmm.
貴様たるんでいるぞ。決戦は間近というのにそのへっぴり腰は何か。
Stars seemed to spin around inside my head. I could just lie down on the floor, but that would only make him more angry. I've got no intention of being obedient. Still, it'd be stupid to get myself punched for no reason. So I got up and stood at attention. Fighting's close, isn't it? I really think the American troops are likely to show up on this forgotten island. Let them come right now. That's what I've been waiting for all this time.
その腐った目つきは何か。貴様、そんなに死にたくないか。そんなに米兵が恐ろしいか。そんな気合では打ち取れんぞ。
I got hit again. Could you please quit your whining already, filthy cowards? They let themselves be controlled by this inexplicable anger because it's the only way to distract themselves from their own fear. Heart and spirit aren't any of use when the battle becomes hopeless. Trapped by an insurmountable hopelessness, humans tend to rely on several other emotions to escape their fear. These young, inexperienced soldiers, anger was a very convenient emotion to fall back upon. Anger is the wine they used to paralyze their fear. Made them chant "Damn the British, damn the Americans" as they sung their bamboo spears around, call it drooling. The more you wine you drink, the more you need to drink to get drunk. The useless anger continued to pile up day after day without pause. I did not fear that, so I had not need for the wine called anger. This made their cowardice all the more apparent to me.
その目つきだ。後ろ宮、貴様の魂は腐りきっておるわ。魚だ。貴様の目は死んだ魚の目だ。
However, it went both ways. Just as I was able to spot their cowardice, they were able to pick on my lethargy.
後ろには金蔵はいるか。注意殿がお呼びだ。立て。もたもたするな。駆け足。
First Lieutenant Yamamoto was the commanding officer in charge of the Rokkenjima garrison. They had the underground passages, the cave. He was just another filthy coward trying to forget his fear with violence, and would often reprimand his subordinates for slacking off the drop of the hat. Whenever he was in a good mood and started spouting off stories of his life, they were all about how much of a thug he had been, ignoring the rules of society. On and on about how so-and-so was a prick, so he taught him a lesson, or how everyone was so scared of him that he got special treatment. He kept on talking about what a vile human he was, that it was a badge of honor. Normally I had nothing to do with his lieutenant, who I couldn't respect in any way. He'd always hang around with his non-commissioned subordinates, so as long as I treated him with a snappy salute, I could more or less ignore him for the time being. Now that the construction project on this island had been suspended indefinitely, there was no longer any use for an engineer like me. So why did the lieutenant ask to see me specifically? At that moment, I couldn't think of anything.
後ろ宮、貴様は外国語が堪能であると聞いたが事実であるか？
英語と中国語を話せるであります。
The lieutenant liked to brag Chinese. English, Chinese. The lieutenant liked to brag about his education from the non-commissioned officer. But he held a bit of a grudge against me for being more highly educated than him. As he also felt uncomfortable about him having a subordinate who was older than him, I wasn't exactly the type he'd been willing to confide in. Just the fact that I knew several languages must have hurt his pride.
ならばイタリア語はどうか？
わかりません。
So, Beatrice.
では貴様にイタリア人との通訳は務まらんというわけか？
英語を喋れる者がいれば可能と思います。
なるほど、確かに。貴様外国人と英語で話した経験はあるのか？
あります。
Why on earth would need an interpreter in a cave on an uninhabited island that even our superiors forgot about? Italian. This question made it clear. Mussolini, World War II. Yeah, Axis powers. His question made it clear that some guests had arrived on Rokkenjima would need an interpreter.
よし。
But why would it?
後ろ宮、貴様を俺の通訳に命ずる。
Oh. That evening I found out exactly what he was talking about. Oh, this is new. Whoa. This is very new. That pointless submarine dock in the cavern had never been used. It was now approaching slowly by a submarine of the Italian Navy. Why? Of course I knew the Italians were all allies, however. This was the first time I'd seen anything from their military with my own eyes. Yeah, I didn't think that the Italians were that close with Japan, even at that time. It would be more specific to say that maybe the Germans would, but Italians? The Germans fled towards South America, mostly. Or maybe someone fled to maybe Beatrice or her family, I guess. Maybe they fled to Japan then. Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. Why would they come here after the surrender?
降伏したのはイタリア王国だ。だが、それを受け入れない者たちは、親独政権 RSI を樹立させ、戦争を続けたのだ。
Yeah, my knowledge is only high school level at best, so sorry about that.
RSI?
イタリア社会共和国、別名サロ共和国だ。
Solo Republic.
詳しいな。何も知らぬ者は、イタリアは枢軸国の中で1943年にいち早く降伏した腰抜けなどと呼んでいるが、それは間違いだ。イタリア社会共和国軍は 開戦から1945年4月29日まで勇敢に戦ったのだ。
ベルリン降伏はその3日後だ。腰抜けどころか大健闘だな。しかし RSI 海軍が日本まで航行できるような潜水艦を持っていたとは驚きだ。
But unfortunately, the Italians had a very bad track record in the war. Yeah, they couldn't conquer much
そ
back
うで
then.
なくともはるばる日本までやってきたこと自体が驚きです。彼らはなぜ日本に、ロッケン島に？
Submarine was both weather-worn and massive. I doubt anyone had imagined that a foreign submarine would come all the way out here, and we never had one of our own submarines dock. All the guards on Rokkenjima, which were there only about 30, stood at attention at the submarine docked.
イタリア軍なんて初めて見たぜ。
なんでも事故か食雷で航行不能になったんだと。
換気装置がやられて塩素ガスが換気できなくなったって聞いたぞ。
中尉殿の話によると何か重要なものを運んでるって話だ。
Oh my god, are they bringing the fucking gold? Oh no, dude. Are you serious?
新型エンジンなんかの設計図じゃない
They're
のか。
bringing gold in a submarine. Is the submarine going to
オラ
be able
積み
to...
より上層部がまだここを覚えててくれたことの方が驚きだぜ。
Could the submarine actually bring 10 tons of gold? 20? Was it 10 or 20? I don't remember. I think it's 20. I don't...
後ろ宮
It would sink, right? I don't think it would be able to...
貴様は通訳だろうが。
はい、中尉殿。
They're bringing gold to Japan. On top of the hatch was a young Italian saluting us. Normally this should have been the job of a commissioned officer, but his clothes looked like those of a sailor. And it really didn't look like he had the dignity and composure of a ship's captain. It probably meant that all the commissioned officers in charge had died in the accident and had fallen this sub. Crew members crawled out the hatch one by one. They all looked pale and entirely worn out. I'm not sure how long ago the accident happened. Being crammed together in a tiny sub filled with chlorine gas for any amount of time can't be good for your health. Not only had the ventilators broken, but traveling around about carelessly in the surface of the waters around Japan these days would be foolish in the extreme. It had been like a trip inside a can of poison gas. Almost all of them were unable to walk without leaning on someone else. It looked like a bunch of people staggering out of a hospital boat.
後ろ宮艦長は誰か聞け。私がこの島の指揮官であることを説明せよ。
ようこそ日本へ。
It's weird talking in English.
英語がわかる者は。ようこそ日本へ。英語がわかる者は。
The crew members seem to understand while speaking English, but it looks as though none of them speak it. Eventually, someone who seemed to be dressed as an officer saluted.
ようこそ日本へ。艦長でありますか。
I can not speak English. Please wait.
The officer answered in slow, laborious English. After asking us to wait, he shouted something to his subordinates in rapid Italian. It looked as though he was telling them to get someone among them who could speak English.
後ろ宮何と言っている。
待てと言っています。英語のわかる人間を呼んでいるのかもしれません。
At that moment, I heard a high-pitched cough. It wasn't a man's cough. It was a woman's. Oh. Here she is. Oh.
私、英語わかるわ。
Oh god, it's the first Beatrice. Oh no, dude. As she came down from the hatch, a woman with beautiful golden hair said that in English. In this filthy cavern, the appearance of one as beautiful as she was seemed like an angel descending upon us.
ようこそ日本へ。艦長はいますか。
艦長は死んだわ。士官はあそこの彼だけよ。
お悔やみ申し上げます。何かお手伝いはできますか。
新鮮な空気と水が欲しいわ。まだ息のある人間もいる。休ませる場所が欲しいわ。
協力しましょう。他に英語のわかる人間はいますか。
いたけどみんな死んだわ。私だけよ。
So how do you survive?
女は何を言っている。艦長は誰だ。さっきの男なのか。その女は何者なのか。早く通訳しろ。
The lieutenant had been yelling like that for a while. He must have been surprised to see such a beautiful woman appear in front of the submarine, and more than a little annoyed to see all her attention focused on me alone. It was a mark of how divinely beautiful she was.
注意殿、彼女だけが英語をわかるようです。彼女が彼らの通訳になります。艦長は死亡。代表者は先ほどの士官のようです。
うるさくあなたに叫んでいる男は何者？まさかあなたの上司なの？
不幸なことに、私が美しいお嬢さんを独り占めしているのが気に入らないんでしょう。
あら、東洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思わなかったわ。綺麗な英語ね。あなたは育ちが良さそうだわ。怒鳴ってるみっともない男とは大違い。あなたがここの将校だったらよかったのに。
おや、私も西洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思いませんでした。
あなたは面白い人だわ。名前は？
後宮金蔵です。よろしければお嬢さんの名前もぜひ。
ベアトリーチェ・カスティリオーニ。
Beatrice Castiglioni.
ようこそベアトリーチェ。
Italian.
日本へ。
That was the first one I met Beatrice, the woman who captured my heart for the rest of my life.
ベアトリーチェとはイタリア人だったのですか？
そうだ、彼女は RSI 交換の娘だった。どうやら彼女の父親こそが一番の積み荷だったらしい。
Important cargo was her. Oh, so he was bringing wealth, his own wealth as well.
残念ながらロッケン島にたどり着いた時にはもう死んでいた。
その交換がなぜ日本に？
He was going to flee from the war, bring his wealth with him and his family, and then just the daughter survived, I guess.
スエズ運河からインド洋を越えてはるばる日本まで来たというのか。
Should have gone to the South Americas just like everybody else did.
確かに同盟国としてはドイツの方がはるかに近いはず。
There's no way.
日本までやってきたのでしょう。
There's no way they're going to flee to Germany at that time. Oh, Germany was completely.
途方もない規模の遠大な作戦か何かだったのかもしれぬ。その全容はわからぬが、その潜水艦がただならぬ任務を帯びていたらしいことは後に理解することとなる。
Mission. So it's not fleeing. They say that there had been about 60 of them at the time of the departure. However, only about 10, including Beatrice, had survived. Wow. Their submarine had apparently hit a mine or something in nearby waters and sustained a great deal of damage. He told that they had floated rapidly with water, which had taken out the batteries and released a large amount of chlorine gas. Their sub had been completely incapable of continuing further. Nothing but a massive lump of metal floating by the dock. Since the sub seemed carrying something of immense value, the higher-ups ordered us to investigate. After questioning the Italians with Beatrice and me acting as double interpreters, concluded that this thing of immense value must have been her father himself. Apparently, Beatrice's father was an extremely high up in the RSI hierarchy, and it was thought that he might have worked alongside Mussolini himself. Though their massive voyage had apparently required some top-secret mission, although the man himself and all his commissioned officers had died, the reason for coming to Japan remained a mystery. And our higher-ups were telling us to investigate, which meant that even they did not know what it was. Their ship had broken down, their mission was unknown, and the high official they had been carrying was dead. And even the Japanese government didn't know what way they were here. The Italians' great and perilous voyage had come to a meaningless and utterly fruitless end. So if the ship wasn't carrying the gold, then where did it come from? How did Beatrice give Kinzo the gold?
日本の潮風はてっきり醤油の匂いがすると思ってたわ。
It smells like shit, like everywhere else.
お互い様です。イタリア人の髪はパスタでできてるって思ってました。
あら、そうよ。アルデンテに仕上げるには茹で加減が難しいの。なら日本人はみんなスパゲティネイロだわ。
よくご存知で。日本人はシャンプーの代わりにイカスミを使います。
Oh god, he's so similar to Baffler, dude.
金蔵はすごいわ。何でも知っているのね。イタリアに来たことがあるの？
ありません。しかし本はいろいろと読みました。
東洋人がイタリアの本を？へえ。例えばどんな？
Black Magic。
ニッコロ・マキャベッリ、ダンテ・アリギエーリも。だからあなたが永遠の淑女であることも存じていますよ。
おお、なんてこと。金蔵はとんでもない勉強家だわ。あなたはひょっとして日本では高貴な家の出身なのでは？
さあ、
あなたは他の野蛮そうな日本人とはまるで違うわ。私にはわかるの。あなたはきっと高貴な家の人間だわ。後ろ宮家は日本の貴族の家柄なの？
とんでもない。紡績で一山当てただけのただの成金の一族です。私が勉強していたのは高貴なるものとしてのたしなみではなく、何をすることも許されなかったら本を読むかバラをいじるか酒に溺れるかしかやることがなかったからですよ。
Ooh. There had been no trace of malice in Beatrice's words. It just had been a curious question asked to a friend from a faraway country. However, Beatrice was from a noble family herself, so she could tell. She could see the faint gloomy look on Kinzo's face.
許して、金蔵。あなたのような高貴な人がどうしてこんなおかしなところで兵卒の身分に甘んじているのか、深く考えなかったわ。
私の一族などどうでもいいことです。死ねば後ろ宮などという姓は何の意味もない。そしてそれこそがようやく私を解き放ってくれるのです。
金蔵は死にたくて軍隊に？そんなのダメ。家族が悲しむわ。
家族など私には誰も。
I have a wife for the sake of public appearances and children. However, I've never wanted any of them. Everything is a fleeting daydream created by those selfish, greedy elders. So at least while I'm on this island, I can forget all about that and find some peace. But haven't I spent each and every day complaining that I wasn't sent to the front and haven't managed to die yet?
私にあなたの苦しみはわからないけれど、私の心ない言葉が傷つけてしまったことはわかるわ。許して、金蔵。
Forgive me, Kinzo. Yes, those words are probably what it did it. All the Japanese calls me Ushiramiya. Remind me that I was the property of the Ushiramiya family every time they talked to me. She was different. She called me Kinzo, not Ushiramiya. So maybe, just for the time I chatted with her like this, I can't forget that cursed family.
Kinzo.
I had meant to make Beatrice feel guilty. She seemed certain that her thoughtless words had hurt me.
ありがとう。あなたが私を金蔵と呼んでくれるから、私はやっと自分を取り戻すことができる。私はようやく本当の意味で私を見てくれる人に出会えた気がします。
金蔵、あなたはとても遠い異国で出会った外国人だけれど、あなたの心はとても繊細で美しい。私たちはきっと近所に住んでいたならとても当たり前な友人になっていたわ。私も嬉しいのよ。あなたは私のことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。カスティリオーニのご令嬢とは呼ばないわ。
We're both in the same position. Her Castiglioni family must have been a rigid place as well. We came from different countries. We finally found something that we both understood.
金蔵は親しい者にはなんて名前で？
いえ、普通に金蔵と呼ばれていました。
じゃ あなたは私をベアトリーチェと呼ぶのを改めるべきだわ。親しい人間は私のことをビーチェと呼んでいた。
ビーチェ。
あなたもそうしてくれると嬉しいわ。
わかりました。これからは親しみを込めてビーチェとお呼びを。
ダメダメ、堅苦しい言葉はダメ。だって私たちはもう友人なのだから。
A bright smile stretched across Beatrice's face.
あの美少があれから何十年を経ようとも我が記憶より薄れることはない。
おじい様はベアトリーチェと出会うことで自分を取り戻されたのですね。
平たくいや浮気だな。
ウィルさんは今後も出現を繰り返されるならお尻をかばわれる癖をつけることをお勧めします。
After having his butt pinched once more, Will hopped around in pathetic agony.
おじい様にとってロッケン島はベアトリーチェと初めて出会われた特別な場所だったのですね。
私がこの島に来ることがなければ出会うこともなかった奇跡の島なのだ。
その潜水艦基地の名残とやらは今も残っているのか。
クワドリアンの近くに今も残っている。外界からは見えぬ入り江の影だ。吹き継がって漁師たちも近寄らなかった島だ。私以外に知る者はもはやいるまい。
クワドリアンと屋敷を結ぶ2キロにも及ぶ地下道はその基地の名残なのか。
そうだ、鍾乳洞を改造した広大な地下壕で地下を網羅し島内各地を要塞化するなどという寝言の残骸だ。私はその地下道を生かし島の両端に2つの屋敷を作らせたのだ。
2つの屋敷、2つの家族、後宮家の屋敷と後宮家から解放された金蔵の屋敷だったのですね。
そうだ、私には必要だったのだ。後宮という呪われた生から逃れるもう一つの場所が。
しかし同情するよ。はるばる日本までやってきて任務を成し遂げられなかったとは気の毒の限りだ。
パパの任務が何だったかよくわからないわ。どこか遠くへ逃げ大切な日までそれを隠さなければならないと言っていた。
それとは
わからないわ。それはとても大切な日まで何年も隠しているつもりだったみたい。いえ、それと一緒に隠れているつもりだったみたい。私に異国の地で長い時間を過ごすことになるかもしれないと謝っていたから。
アンジェロ少尉は積み荷は特になく
No cargo.
君の父上が輸送すべき要人だったと言っていたが。
少尉はあなたたちを信用してないわ。私でさえ知っていることをいくつも隠してる。ひょっとすると少尉はパパの目的と積み荷を知っているのかも。
Yeah, the Japanese would have stolen the gold.
それが何だったにせよ、それはイタリア軍の任務さ。俺らには関係ないね。むしろ同盟国なんだ。頼ってくれればいいのに。
Yeah, there's no way.
金蔵が良い人であることは疑わないわ。少尉にもあなたは信頼できる人間だと伝えてるんだけれど、どうして男というのは異教ではむやみやたらと厳格になるの？
Did the Italians and Japanese kill each other on the island then?
普段はみんなもっと陽気な人たちばかりなのに、ここへ来てからみんな妙に空気が張り詰めているわ。
He bought the island and then the Japanese government couldn't investigate and then what was his face? The general, the American general came here and installed a new government.
少尉は部下たち全員に常時銃を手放さないように命じてる。まるでここが敵地かのようだわ。
That was true. Italians were clearly very opposite of relaxed. The Japanese soldiers watching this began to suspect that the Italians didn't really trust them at all.
軍人ならおかしいことじゃないさ。むしろこういう時こそ規律を引き締めて友軍に恥ずかしいところを見せたくないんじゃないか。
就寝時には必ず根津板を立てるし、もう航行できないスクラップ同然の潜水艦に今もあなたたちを近づけないように見張りを立てているわ。私はなんだか日本人を露骨に毛嫌いしているように見えて気持ちが悪い。
The Japanese army wasn't that. I mean, if you've read the reports, yeah, you would suspect the Japanese army at the time. True, they had set up a constant sentry by the submarine and had refused to let any of the Japanese soldiers come near. This hadn't made the Japanese particularly happy. However, submarines are treated as classified in all countries. It is just natural for them to stop foreigners from approaching it without reason.
慣れない生活を強いられてみんな気が立ってるんだろう。天候と女将の都合で君たちを本土へ運ぶ船の派遣がまた遅れてる。君たちをいつ本土へ送ってあげられるやら。
Kinzo's superior is gonna make a mistake and then maybe a free-for-all battle royale with only Beatrice and Kinzo as the survivors. I had been told that a boat was being sent from them directly from the mainland, but apparently, thanks to the weather problems in the command chain and recent air raids, I had no ships they could spare for Forgotten Island like this. There had been political issues as well. After all, Italian's homeland had already surrendered to the Allies. I didn't know the details. The only thing I knew for sure was that they'd been stuck on Rokkenjima for 2 whole weeks and no one had come to get them. Of course, we had some small boats in Rokkenjima. There was nothing physically stopping us from taking them to the nearby island. Still, Rokkenjima was technically a top-secret base, and containing with the outside world had been strictly forbidden contact.
仕方がないし、それも悪くないわ。だって船が来てしまったら金蔵とはもう会えなくなってしまうんでしょ。
Romance developed between 2 weeks. To me, those 2 weeks were the first I've ever truly lived. Playing 20 years before all seemed to vanish in the sparkle of that pair of weeks. I realized that she'd have to leave this place eventually. And yet the single moment felt so rich and dazzling that I felt myself wishing it could last forever. Then I heard a voice call for Beatrice in Italian.
Angelo Shoei だよ。君に用事みたいだ。
またお小言かしら。日本人とあまり親しくするなと最近うるさいのよ。
Second lieutenant approached, saluting Kinzo, and after glancing at Beatrice as though asking her to translate something, he began to speak in Italian. Judging by his tone, it sounded like something serious.
少尉はとても重要な話があるからあなたたちの指揮官に合わせてほしいと言ってるわ。協力を求めたいと言っている。何のことかわからないわ。
重要な話。わかった。山本中尉を探そう。
Lieutenant Angelo had two of his subordinates with him and wore a stern expression on his face. They didn't have to say anything for us to realize that it has to be something very serious. The winch creaked and the thick chains rang out with a dull clang. Very, very slowly, it was lifted up out of the submarine's cargo hold. Yep.
イタリア人どもが我々を潜水艦に近づけたがらないわけだ。
Oh, it was sinking then. Oh no. First lieutenant and the others looked up what the winch was slowly lifting up. All of them wearing unpleasant, forced smiles.
なんてこと。これがパパの運んでいた積み荷だというの。
すごい。こんなの生まれて初めて見た。
Yep. Oh, ho, ho. It was a mountain of gold ingots. Those carefully piled bars were slowly lifted up out of the cargo hold, one group after another. This gold had been their true cargo. I don't know where they were planning to take it. They might have been trying to sneak it in Japan, one of their allies, or they might have been on the way to hide it from some remote area. Was it some sort of strategy, a conspiracy, embezzlement, top secret transportation of wealth? This incomprehensible amount of gold led to all sorts of dark suspicions, but we didn't know anything about the truth. All told, the gold weighed about an incredible 10 tons. That was the only truth we could wrap our minds around at the moment. I strongly resisted showing this to us. However, the submarine could no longer make sea, and it was apparently continuing to take in water bit by bit. Yeah, it was sinking. Rokkenjima had been outfitted with an extremely slipshod weight, so we had no means of repairing it. Also, though we could unload the sub, there was no way we could be able to lift it up again once it had filled water and sunk to the bottom. Now that transporting the gold away had been clearly become an impossible goal, they had apparently decided on unloading it. Of course, they made no effort to explain the reason behind all this gold. They just asked us to help them take it out.
なぜこんな大量の黄金を国外へ？これだけあればイタリアの戦局を変えられたかもしれないのに。
Not that much, I don't think.
戦局を変えるのは武器よ。でも戦後は何の役にも立たないわ。確かにお金も戦局を変えはするでしょうよ。でも戦後にもその価値は変わらないわ。
There's no longer any way to change the course of this war. The Axis powers will probably all surrender, leading to an Allied victory. Anyone could tell that simply looking by the American planes flying across the sky day by day. However, gold does not lose its value after the war. Everyone stared upwards, dumbfounded, as the winch slowly lifted the dully sparking gold. Ooh. Things are getting interesting. And which came from the sea. Lieutenant Yamamoto.
イタリア人たちはこの黄金のことを本土へ報告しないことを望んでいます。
我が国に横領されたくないからであろうな。
彼は何と？
日本が黄金を横領するのを恐れているから報告されたくないのだろうと言っている。
少尉はむしろイタリア本国に知られることを恐れているわ。私たちにとって今の祖国は連合国の傀儡政権。彼らに知られれば黄金は返還することになる。しかしそれは私たちの敵に黄金を渡すようなもの。
They'd come all this way to make sure the gold didn't fall into enemy hands. They'd need to hide from the puppet government till their homeland could truly be restored.
後ろ宮、イタリア人たちに提案せよ。我々は協力を申し出たいとな。
協力とは？
イタリア人たちの言い分はこうであろう。彼らはその黄金を祖国に知られることなく隠したいわけだ。しかしこの島から運び出そうとすれば輸送船を手配せねばならなくなる。そうすれば本土に知られ、さらにはイタリア本国にも知られることとなる。
そうなります。つまりあの黄金はもうロッケン島からは運び出せない。
Their mission must have been to hide the gold in absolute secrecy until the day of their homeland's restoration. Later on, several plausible rumors would circulate about how Nazi Germany also moved much of its secret wealth to certain hidden areas in South America just prior to its collapse. It was a very natural conclusion to reach. The submarine was their only method of transporting the gold in secrecy, and it's become completely useless. They can't fully stop the waters from seeping in, and it'll probably sink completely before much longer. There's no longer any way for them to transport the gold in secrecy. In other words, their mission has ended in failure here in the Far East. So just how Lieutenant Yamamoto proposing that we assist them.
このロッケン島基地は誰も知らぬ秘密基地だ。
Play.
近隣の島民たちはこの島を不吉な無人島と信じて近寄りもしない。言っている意味がわかるか、後ろ宮。
彼は何と？
前にも話した通り この六軒島基地は誰にも知られていない。見ての通り戦略価値は何もなく、上層部にもすでに忘れられてる。注意はこの島に黄金を隠してはどうかと提案したいみたいだ。
Beatrice quickly translated this and told Lieutenant Angelo. Began discussing something rapidly with subordinates. His subordinates. They didn't look happy. Japan may have been an ally, but they probably didn't want to leave the gold for reconstructing their motherland in Asian hands. Still, it was hard to imagine any other option for them.
激しく議論しているわ。他に手はないという者もいるし、それでも祖国に忠誠を尽くすべきだという者もいる。少尉は板挟みになってるわ。
Final order given to them by their fallen homeland was to hide the gold. However, by now there was no way for that order to be carried out successfully. The mainland could, or their own homeland found out, the gold would probably be confiscated by the wrong people from their point of view. They really want to carry out their homeland's orders faithfully. Lieutenant Yamamoto's proposal was extremely reasonable. Though he couldn't understand their words, he seemed to realize how divided they were.
我々が協力すれば、あの黄金を厳重に隠すことができるぞ。幸いなことに、廃棄された地下壕が長々とこの島の地下を横断している。
この島の地下に黄金を隠して埋めれば、誰にも発見できないと言ってる。
現実的な申し出だと議論してるわ。でも日本人の手を借りるのに抵抗を感じてるみたい。
議論が難航しているようです。
議論の余地などあるのか、イタリア人。我々の協力なくばあの黄金は隠せんぞ。まさかいつまでも波打ち際に積み上げておくわけにもいくまい。
アンジェロ少尉は黄金のことを知る人間を最小で抑えたいみたい。日本人は信用できないけど、山本中尉の申し出が今は最善と見てるみたいよ。でもいぶかしがってるわ。
何を
？10トンの黄金を隠すという労力の提供と守秘義務を彼らが本当に無償で提供してくれるのか。
Here, a percentage of the gold.
五分と五分だ。
Oh shit. I thought about 10%, but oh.
注意、それはまさか。
あの黄金の半分を我々によこせ。それを手間賃に残りの半分を厳重に隠してやろう。
That's
半分をよこせと言ってる。
Instant Beatrice translated that sentence. Lieutenant Angelo slammed his hands on the desk and stood up. Ooh. Instead of flinching, Lieutenant Yamamoto, true to his boast of once being a thug who everyone feared, actually looked even more relaxed and confident than he had previously.
本来なら断りようのない話だ。8割を要求してもおかしくない。それを敬意を表して五分と五分にしようと提案しているのだ。これは我々だけに有意な話ではない。イタリア人たちが外部にこのことを漏らせば、全ての黄金は日本かイタリアに接収されるだろう。我々には1円たりとも転がり込んでこない。我々は全員が共犯でなくてはならないのだ。
全員に着服の共犯になれと言ってる。周囲はすでに軍人としてでなく個人として話をしている。
なんてこと。黄金に目がくらんだのね。
Lieutenant Yamamoto was grinning. It really looked as though he had been blinded by greed, just as Beatrice
あ
said.
のまま山積みにしていれば、やがて本土から来る向かいの連中の目に嫌おうなく入るだろう。そうなればここにいる誰もが得をしないぞ。我々の申し出を受けて早急に黄金を隠すべきだ。
アンジェロ少尉は日本政府やイタリア政府にはどうしても知られたくないみたい。彼は自分が与えられた任務に最後まで責任を持ちたいみたいよ。
つまりどういうことだ。
何割かを口止め料として与えてでも島内に地中深く埋めることを望んでるわ。もちろん下士官たちには異論もあるみたい。5割は問題外だと憤慨してるわ。
後ろ宮、イタリア人たちの感触はどうだ？
彼らも黄金がこれ以上の人目につくことを望んでいないようです。しかし取り分に異論があるようです。
少尉は1割ならば検討できると言ってるわ。無論山本中尉がそれで納得しないだろうとも言ってるけど。
後ろ宮、イタリア人の返事はいかに
？1割なら検討すると。
This time it was Lieutenant Yamamoto who slammed down on the desk. But the Italians didn't flinch either. Incredible tension filled the small room. However, despite his violent outburst a second ago, Lieutenant Yamamoto's expression looked smug and in control. He was probably confident that he now had initiative.
1割か。それいいだろう。なら1割を譲ってやろう。しぶろくだ。これ以上は譲らんと伝えろ。
40 for the Japanese, 60 for the Italians. The lieutenant was talking tough, but in truth, those negotiations weren't being made on an equal footing. The Italians had just won the gold for themselves, they wouldn't have much of a problem. But what if there are true patriots? Decide to return the gold for the purpose of a reconstruction, even to the defeated puppet government of their homeland. If so, they would probably report the existence of the gold to the Italian embassy. Eventually, the Italian government will petition the allied nations for the retrieval of their gold. Probably won't make it back to it. It probably wouldn't make it all. It probably wouldn't all make it back to Italy, but it might be used effectively to repair and rebuild their battered towns. When that happened, Lieutenant Yamamoto and his friends won't be able to sneak out a few ingots at most. He was really planning to make this his own treasured island, that he and his subordinates could have an enormous fortune all to themselves. If he wanted to succeed, the Italians would have to keep the presence of the gold quiet.
しかし疑問だ。アンジェロ少尉が誰にも黄金を渡したくないなら、沈みゆく潜水艦に任せて沈めればよかったはず。どうして荷上げを？
考えたくはないけれど、命令が遂行不能になった時点で少尉はこの黄金を横領することを考え始めたのかも。彼は今下士官たちに軍人としての意見と祖国に家族が待つ一個人としての意見を聞きたいと言っているわ。堅物の下士官たちが激高してる。
Discussions between the Italians had become fierce and emotional. But their homeland had fallen, they had come all this way in accordance with its orders. They had probably given this mission because they were particularly faithful and duty-minded troops. It seemed that they couldn't agree to a foreigner's proposal to embezzle and split up the gold. Lieutenant Angelo looked like he was the one doing all he could to calm the unexpectedly fervent rage of his subordinates. It looked like the gold is blinding them too. Everyone's mixing their true feelings with how they want to be seen, and they can't make up their minds.
奴らの返答はいかに？後ろ宮！
ビーチェ、周囲が返事を求めてる。
考える時間が欲しいと言ってるわ。私はあなたと話せたから気が紛れてよかったけれど、他の人たちはそうじゃないの。とても長い後悔の果てに大勢の仲間を失って極限状態でここにいるわ。唯一の心の拠り所だった任務ももはや喪失してる。どうすればいいのか彼らも分かってないの。
注意、彼らは時間が欲しいと言っています。
いいとも、大いに議論したらいい。しかし時間はないぞ。隠すとなったら時間と手間がかかる。明日の正午までに結論しろ。以上だ、イタリア人ども。
回答期限は明日の正午だそうだ。周囲め、まるで脅迫だ。
少尉は全員の意見を聞くと言ってるわ。
感触は
多分難航するわ。少尉自身は山分けもあり得ると考えてるみたいだけど、下士官や他の仲間たちは多分反対するわ。みんなこの極東までの航海で大切な仲間を大勢失ってる。彼らは堅なに祖国への忠誠を貫きたがってる。
周囲の申し出は断ると？
断ってもどうせ黄金は誰かの手に渡るわ。 何も残らないならせめてインゴットの1本ずつでも密かに持ち帰ろうという少尉の言い分に同調者も出そうだけど、こういう時の男って勢いだけが迷走するわ。私も見当がつかない。
Oh. The situation is becoming tense.
イタリア人たちの胸中は複雑でしょうね。
彼らにとって降伏後のイタリアは敵国同然だろう。黄金をそのイタリアに返還するのは彼らの長い旅路を全て否定するのと同じだ。
しかし、黄金を着服して山分けすることも彼らの旅路の否定になります。
彼らが義理立てすべき祖国はすでに滅んでいる。その時点で彼らの旅路の意味などもう失われている。気の毒な話だ。
どうせ意味のないことならインゴットの一本でもありつけた方がまだマシだと。
損得感情で言えばそうなる。そうならねえのが男ってもんだがな。
On that night, everyone killed everyone. The Italians were gathered in the trap room, arguing fiercely.
反対です。死んだ戦友たちのためにも断固軍人魂を貫くべきです。
貫くとはどういうことか。この島に黄金を隠せということか。東洋人たちの申し出を受けるということか。
東洋人たちは信用できません。特にあの山本という男、断じて油断できません。
黄金を荷上げして日本人たちに見られたのはやはり失敗でした。艦と共に沈めるべきでした。
日本人の基地で沈めてどうする。やがていつかは引き上げられる。隠したことにはなれない。いずれにせよこの島から黄金を誰にも知られずに運び出す方法はない。
洋上で名誉ある自鎮を選んでいたらこんなことには。
艦のダメージが致命的だったことがあの時点で分かっていたら、どうしてあの時少佐は日本軍に救援要請を。日本軍にこの黄金のことを知られたら少佐はどう任務を遂行するつもりだったんだ。
少佐が救援要請を出した時点で我々の任務はもう失敗していたんだ。諸君にも祖国で待つ家族がいるはずだ。そして極東の島国までよく航海に耐えた。それに対するこれは正当な報酬なのだという考え方もある。
あの日本人に助けなど求めていなかった。
死んだ親友たちが浮かばれてこんな目に。
少尉、日本人が友好的でない場合、我々は最終的解決手段を辞さない覚悟が必要です。
Prepare your rifles.
伍長、最終的解決手段とは何か。
Someone gulped. Stiff tension hung over the room.
日本人たちはたるみ切っています。実戦経験もない腰抜けばかりです。我々は精兵です。すでに基地内の間取りのほぼ全てと日本人の人数、配置状況は把握しています。少尉の命令があれば短時間で制圧できるでしょう。戦闘員と思わしきは山本を含めて数人程度、残りは軍属の作業員風情です。上辺の人数は日本人が上ですが、実質兵力ではこちらが優位です。
日本人を殺せば迎えの船が来た時それをどう説明する。ごまかしようがないぞ。
死体さえ見つからなければどうとでもごまかせます。少尉、この基地を制圧するのは容易です。山本以下主要な兵士数人を殺してみせればあっさりと作業員たちは降伏するでしょう。彼らに黄金を運ばせ地中に埋めましょう。もちろん彼らの口は永遠に塞ぎますが、
日本人たちを皆殺しにするということか。
殺しましょう。全員殺せば黄金のことは誰にも知られずに済むのです。
This is getting deep. For a moment, the supposed locked door opened slightly. A metal object was thrown in. Oh. As the yell rang out, the table skid over to use as a shield and they all dropped to the floor. Having this cramped room, it probably wouldn't do them any good. The Italians were all prepared for that death. Fortunately, the shotty grenade was a dud. The door was slammed open, and the three Japanese soldiers wielding pistols jumped in. Ooh. In the small room, no matter who shot where, it was bound to hit someone. The exchange of blood instantly called a rain of blood, casualties on both sides. 3 who had jumped in were covered in bullet holes and fell over, moaning and thrashing. Angelo? Gino.
助からない。幸運な犠牲だ。あの手榴弾が不発でなかったら全員死んでる。
The grenade was still rolling about on the floor. It had been a surprise attack. Lieutenant Yamamoto had probably judged that the negotiations wouldn't go his way and had decided to make the first move. Or maybe he had been planning from this beginning to put them in a position where they'd be gathered in one place to discuss his offer. Rokkenjima was their island. If they had killed all the Italians, then not half, but all the gold would go to the Japanese. There was a chance that the grenade might go off late. The Italians rushed out into the corridor. He heard gunfire from down the hallway. This come from the direction of the submarine dock. Clear the troops guarding the pile of gold were being attacked.
ご命令を。やむを得ん。日本人は殺せ。注意。あいつらできます。この連中ただの船乗りじゃね
え。なるほど。黄金の番人を任されるだけの兵士ということか。人数はこちらが上だ。焦らず囲んで殺せ。イタリア人狩りだ。
Ooh. As soon as I heard the sound of repeating gunfire, I knew that something which had been smoldering since the time the gold was unloaded had finally burst. The eyes of us soldiers looking at gold hadn't been normal. Yes, those eyes had been entranced by the demons. The Italians had been pushed to the limits by the heavy burden they bore. We didn't have snapped after being trapped in a distant island where you can understand the language or the writing. Thinking I had to do something, I ran towards the sound of gunfire. Looking back on it was an extremely stupid thing to do. That sound meant that there were people shooting at each other, people killing each other, and yet, unarmed as I was, I dashed towards the sound, as I was trying to mediate some schoolyard fight. It didn't take long before I learned how foolish and naive was that heat of battle. Warrant Officer Hiroka was facing lying down, his entire body drenched in blood. Judging by the trail of blood behind him, it's clear that he had managed to crawl here from a different room before dying. Though he was still twitching, he might not be dead yet. But on this island without a doctor, no, even if he had a doctor, who could possibly save a man who had been shot this many times in the chest? When I looked in the room he must have crawled out of, I saw 2 more blood-stained Japanese corpses. I fell backwards pathetically on my butt, my mouth hanging open in shock. Come to think of it, that was the first time I've ever faced death in my life. The entire world was at war, even though millions were dying both east and west. This was the first time I met with a person's death directly. Ridiculous. Didn't I join the army hoping to die? Didn't I whine about not being sent to the front lines? Yeah, so rejoice, Kinzo. Isn't this the death you were looking for? And I spread your hands and yell out loud, come for me, magnificent death. Someone came running towards me. It was a colleague of mine, a Japanese man, Tajima-kun. Dashed towards me, pale-faced and out of breath. He seemed horribly contorted with terror. Mine probably looked the same.
Tajima-kun, what happened?
Ooh, someone yelled in Italian, and at the same time, Tajima let out a scream. And he grabbed onto me as he fell on the floor. Red stain spreading across the back before my eyes. Is Beatrice gonna save Kinzo? With his fat bubbles of blood, he said that one word and died. Shocks of seeing someone die right in front of me did not freeze my heart. At a fundamental level, all things are unconcerned with the deaths of others. The only thing that matters is whether they themselves die or not. was the barrel of the gun the Italian soldier was pointing that froze my heart. Tashima's back burst once more as he leaned against me. Flesh tore, blood spattered. The warm splash sheet covered my face. Was the Italian still trying to finish him off even though he had stopped moving for good? How foolish I've been. And I still don't understand the scene in front of me. Rejoice, Kinzo, that I finally get what you wanted all this time. The Italian hadn't fired off to finish Tajima. He had an aim at the man Tajima couldn't have fallen onto. Me. Ashiromiya Kinzo. I pushed the corpse aside, scrabbled against the floor, and dashed away, tumbling over myself. My hand pushed against the floor hard enough to tear off the ring fingernail on my left hand. Faced with death, humans can truly resist with all they got. Get the gun, get the gun, get a gun on the fallen soldiers. I tumbled over and over as I ran, scraping up parts of my body. It was painful, hot, but it didn't matter at all. I heard yelling and Italian come from behind me over and over again. It felt like they were running, chasing after me. I didn't want to look back, so I kept on running and running as though the Italians were right behind me. This is death. Didn't you want to die? No, I don't want to die. Why? Why didn't I want to die so badly? But now I know. I know how wonderful it is to be alive. She taught me. Ichi did. I can only be free when I talk to her. No, by talking to her, I finally came alive for the first time. I was born. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I don't want to die. I want to live and see her right now. If I don't see her, I'll die. I'll be killed. Stay cool, Kinzo. She might be killed too. If you live and she dies, I might as well be dead. Wearing it, my face was covered in tears, snot, and saliva. When I stumbled, something fell. I was finally able to come to my senses a little. I could still hear intermittent gunfire. The gunfire was still going on and had spread throughout the entire base. Ichi, are you okay? I'll find her and take her to a safe place. Lieutenant will probably kill all the Italians to steal the gold. Ichi probably won't be an exception.
Beach.
I lived for the first time after meeting you. I was born. So if you die, I'll die again. I feel every cell in my body being reborn. Not as Ashiromiya Kinzo, but as a completely different Kinzo. Of course, I was terrified that I might be really shot if I went back. But I didn't want to die anymore. To truly die. So I was able to overcome my fear. I grabbed the gun. And murdered everyone. Except her.
一体何が起こってるの？この騒ぎは何？
君は知らなくていい。そこにじっと隠れてよ。同胞が呼びかけるまで出てくるんじゃない。
イタリア人の声が聞こえた。そこにいるぞ。
くそ、誰東洋人め。
Ruben stood with Beatrice behind his back. Neatly shot the two men rushing at him with two 9mm bullets from his Beretta M1 1934. However, one of the 8mm bullets from the Type 94 semi-auto pistols went straight into Ruben's chest. All three of the shooters were struck in the chest and fell down in a heap. Oh no. Next person to appear was the commanding officer of the Japanese soldiers, Yamamoto. The blast of 3 guns had just been sounded. Adding on to Beatrice's screams, it was hardly surprising that he had noticed the encounter. Yamamoto spat. Beatrice used that moment to snatch up Ruben's gun.
躊躇なく銃を拾おうとするとは。イタリア女は実に物騒だ。くそ、二人がかりでしくじりやがって。
He spat his last fire at the 2 dying men who lay moaning at his feet. However, what happened to them wasn't particularly surprising. It wasn't the first time it happened either. In this tiny cramped tunnel, nearly everyone had met head-on. Both sides shot recklessly, and in such a situation, the result was 2 corpses. So whoever sensed another person pulled the trigger quickest won. That was the only way to survive the battle without a bullet in your chest. Because of this, both Japanese and Italians had killed each other without hesitation, and they sometimes even pulled the trigger on oncoming allies. In the midst of all this were several Japanese men who had stumbled into the fight, wondering what was going on. It didn't matter whether the other person was holding a gun or not. Everyone had reflexively pulled the trigger at the sight of anyone other than themselves trying to stay alive. The entire base had been wrapped up in the slaughter. There was a fierce gun battle taking place on the submarine dock, and a massacre resembling a hunt was taking place inside the base. Most of the non-combatants assigned to this base were killed before they knew what was going on. The Italians were indeed quite seasoned troops, but their numbers began to drop bit by bit. Bloodstained corpses were scattered everywhere. First, probably a proper gunfight. However, as minds began to grow weary and numb, it evolved into that most basic cause of warfare throughout humanity: the desire to kill all foreigners you don't understand. Whenever they heard words they didn't understand, they pulled the trigger. By that point, the screams of foreigners sounded no different from that of the man-shaped beasts. After all, they couldn't understand the pleading in the Nanjo's language. So, it had long turned into a mere massacre. As the number of dead surpassed the number of living, silence began to return to the blaze. Just when they felt as though everyone had died and you could hear the desolate sound of the wind blowing through the cave, there would be a sudden scream, the crisp sound of a gun, and you remembered that the massacre wasn't over yet. This happened over and over again, and eventually true silence fell. It marked the painful end for those led astray by the gold. The leader of the Italian soldiers, Angelo, had managed to survive somehow. He cared nothing but the corpses of friend and foe. All quiet was once more in the base. If he was careless enough to call out, he might have shot from the shadow somewhere. So he snuck about like a panther, breathing quietly and searched for remaining enemies. There was no sign of or trace of any living person. Maybe all the people in this base had died. Japanese struck first, but that time they were also talking about killing them. They simply made the first move as military men, so perhaps we should be grateful for this day. If the boat had come to pick us up, there wouldn't be any honor left for us. We had been mere failures in our mission, unfit to face our dead comrades. Perhaps dying here in the Far East alongside my gun is a more fitting end for a soldier. Notice the sound of shuffling feet coming from around the corner and strained to hear. Is someone seriously wounded and dragging their feet? Noticing them before they notice me greatly helps my chances. At this stage, there's no point in tricking prisoners. We must dispose of all the Japanese. Dash around the corner, quickly check to see who they are and shoot if it's a Japanese person. Nothing more. Been hiding my footsteps the whole time. Probably don't know I'm here. As the shuffling footsteps come close enough, Angelo leaned around the corner and raised his gun. The voice that reached him spoke in Italian. Ooh.
貴様を探していたぞ、アンジェロ少尉。これで全員だな。俺はしっかり貴様らの死体を数えて回ってたんだからな。
しっかりして、アンジェロ少尉。
Blood poured from Angelo's chest, his gun fell to the floor, then his knees, and then the rest of his body crumpled and stopped moving. Yamamoto's accuracy with a gun wasn't particularly stellar. However, Angelo had waited until they were fairly close before jumping out, so Yamamoto had made this shot. He managed to hit even with a short-barreled handgun in one hand, and a woman as a hostage in the other.
それにしても我が六軒島守備隊の情けないことよ。まさか私以外は全員死んだのではあるまいな。やれやれクズどもめ。
女を盾に取らなきゃ戦えない人手だし、離して。
静かにしろ。イタリア女は実に騒がしい。おとなしくしてれば命までは取らんというのに。
It was such an obvious lie that even he wore a bitter smile. The others were spies working for the enemy, and they all had died along with the garrison in a gunfight. Since this was the story Yamamoto wanted to tell, he couldn't afford to have any Italian survivors. At this point, he wouldn't be able to keep the entire pile of gold, but he should be able to grab as many as he could carry. Even that would be worth a huge amount of money. Beatrice suddenly swung her head, smashing Yamamoto's nose hard. She almost managed to escape, however Yamamoto quickly grabbed her leg and tripped her. She fell onto her back, and Yamamoto mercilessly stomped his foot down her stomach and pointed his gun at her. Oh my god, why didn't you shoot him, dude? Had so many chances to get the guns. Kinzo had jumped out from the shadows. He was holding a gun he had stolen from one of the corpses. Yamamoto didn't know that the grenade had been a dud. He had been sure that the surprise attack would work, but it hadn't, so he assumed that Kinzo must have tipped him off. Yamamoto ground his heel into Beatrice's gut. Without hesitation, Yamamoto raised the barrel of his gun towards Kinzo and pulled the trigger. In case Kinzo's right here. If Yamamoto's aim has just been a bit better, the bullet would have landed to Kinzo's face. Not letting Yamamoto's momentary distraction go to waste, Beatrice lashed out and planted her right foot into Yamamoto's crotch. After moaning in pain, a demonic expression flashed across Yamamoto's face and he stomped on her chest. Okay, this was a little bit. Beatrice shut her eyes tightly, hoping that she could withstand the coming pain. No one wants to watch the moment they get shot. A blood splash poured out of Yamamoto's chest. Could Yamamoto hear Kinzo's words until the end? In his last moments, he seemed to grin. Slowly, he fell backwards with a spurt of blood. I value this one more than a pile of gold. it's you who should be worried because he stomped on your gut.
てっきりあなたが撃たれたと。
Yeah, you should not be walking right now. Beatrice tried to stand up, but doubled over and started coughing.
ビーチェ、怪我をしたのか？
あばらが痛むわ。その人でなしが激しく踏んだものだから。
大丈夫か？折れていなければいいんだが。
これくらいで折れるほどイタリア女はやわじゃないの。でもありがとう。あなたは命の恩人だわ。あなたが来なければ私はきっとそこに転がっていたわ。
Yamamoto had shown no mercy. Her ribs were probably cracked. He didn't have the option of waiting, possibly for several days, for that ship was coming. Made the decision to carry her away from the island. The man who kept yelling about preserving the secrecy of the base was lying there dead. Next island over Nijima is close. A small boat should be more than enough to get us there.
君を病院へ運ばなければならない。君が思っているより傷が深かったらいけない。
知らなかった。この島には病院もあるのね。
ない。隣の島へ船で運ぶ。君は病院へ。私はこの島での出来事をうまく片付けないと。とばっちりで軍法会議者だ。
頼みがあるの。私を病院へ連れて行かないで。
どうして？
病院へ行って大使館に連絡が行けば、私はやがて本国へ送還されるわ。そしてきっとあれこれと尋問を受けるんだわ。私はママを見殺しにした奴らを自分の祖国とは認めないの。もう私の帰るべき祖国はないの。ここが私の終点だから、もう私はどこへも行きたくないの。私に優しくしてくれたアンジェロ少尉もルーベンスもみんな死んでしまった。
だから君までここで死ぬと？イタリア女はヤワじゃないんだろ？生きるんだ。
ねえ金蔵、生きるってどういう意味？あなたが教えてくれたはずよ。生きるってのはただ息をすることじゃないわ。私はイタリアへ帰りたくないの。
ビーチェ、
あなたは私と出会うまで死んでいたと言ってくれたわ。でもそれは私も同じなの。潜水艦の中で私は死んでいた。祖国も滅び、ママも死んだ、パパもね。私はこんな船沈んでしまえと願ったわ。だからここにたどり着いた時、実は死に損ねたとがっかりした。その矢先よ、少尉が英語がわかる者はいるかと騒ぎ出したの。
When Kinzo met Beatrice, he finally forgot about dying. When Beatrice met Kinzo, he also forgot about dying.
私は祖国も家族も友人たちも失った私をあなたにさらってほしいと願うの。
ピーチェ。
でもそれは叶えられない望みだとも分かってる。ならばせめて迎えの船が来るまでの数日間をあなたと一緒にいたいの。胸の痛みなんて気にしない。だって迎えの船に連れ去られたら私はもう死んでしまうのだから。
Beatrice spoke this, smiling softly. She did her best to hide the pain in her
お
chest.
願い、金蔵、迎えが来るまでの私をさらって。
その願いは叶えられない。
Looking apologetically, Kinzo lifted Beato up and gently set her in the boat.
育児なし。やっぱり日本の男は軟弱だわ。
そうだな。私は育児なしだ。だから君の願いは片方しか叶えられない。
The chunk, he placed it, wrapped in the jacket, in the boat.
片方とは？
迎えが来るまでの数日間でいいからの方は叶えられないということさ。
Oh god. Don't be a Squads battler. Please don't be a Squads battler. No.
どういう意味？
君をさらう。そっちを叶えることにした。
金蔵。
There had to be a doctor in Nijima, wearing a Navy uniform. I should be able to pass myself off as a survivor of a boat carrying a VIP that was sunk by enemy ships. If the doctor happens to be one of the greedy sorts, all the better. After all, I have right here the golden magic to make people do what I say. A witch from a distant country took my lifeless body and gave me my soul. A woman came to move the gold and revive me with her magic.
君は魔女だ。黄金の魔女だ。
ええ、黄金の魔女よ。みんなと同じレシピで作ってるのに、私だけがパスタから消し炭を生み出す錬金術が使えるの。あなたと同じく私も、あなたがいてくれる限り生きることを許される屍。あなたがいなくなったら私はすぐにでも死んでしまう。
死なせない。
本当に？
絶対に。
だってね。だってあなたは私をさらったんだから。
Why did you have to be cool?
そうですか。
Oh, it was you? Oh no, it was Nanjo, right?
金蔵さんがそこまで話しましたか。
では、まさかあなたなのですか？おじい様がベアトリーチェを連れて行った新島の医者というのは。
驚くに値しねえ。新島の医者って時点でピンとくる。
Yeah.
突然海軍の兵隊さんが外国人の女性を連れて現れたのです。驚きましたとも。しかもその上軍機なので秘密で治療しろというのです。
それがおじい様との初対面だったのですか？
そうです。それが金蔵さんと初めての対面でした。
黄金で言いなりになった欲深な医者ってのもお前のことなのか？
これは手厳しいですな。突然外国人の女性患者を連れ込み、軍機だから秘密にせよと言い、治療代は必ず持ってくるから担保にと言って黄金のインゴットを差し出す相手ですぞ。厄介事はごめんでした。しぶしぶとですとも。
確かにそれもそうですね。でも南條先生はベアトリーチェをかくまってくれたんですね。
金蔵さんほどではありませんが、私にも英語の心得がありました。二人の会話を漏れ聞き、二人が決して厄介な何者かでないと確信したからです。もちろんインゴットに目がくらまなかったといえば嘘が過ぎますがな。私も今よりは若かったものですから。
その後彼女は
しばらくの療養の後、後ろ宮家の使いの方が来て小田原に移すとおっしゃいましてな。引き取られていきました。
おじい様が自分で迎えに行ったわけではないのですか？
金蔵がどう六軒島の事件を言い訳したにせよ、しばらくの間は自由には動けなかっただろうよ。
ですな。軍をごまかすのが金蔵さんの人生で一番の大勝負だったと言っておりましたな。
ベアトリーチェは小田原に行って、それから
使われていない別荘の一つにかくまったと聞いています。当時の金蔵さんにはもう家族がおられましたからな。そこはうまくやられたのでしょうな。
クワドリアン以前から二重生活はお手の物だったというわけだ。
何してるんですか？お尻におできでも？それからベアトリーチェはおじい様の保護で別荘でいつまでも
平穏につつましやかに暮らしたと聞きます。それから数年の後、彼女に子供が生まれましてな。
クワドリアンのベアトリーチェの誕生か。
出産がうまくいかなかったそうで、お気の毒なことです。
まさか亡くなったんですか？
驚くな。金蔵は娘を生まれ変わりと信じたんだぞ。心をないがしろにするんじゃねえ。
そうですね、失礼。
私は金蔵さんが彼女と過ごされた小田原の数年間を知りません。しかしその後の今日までの金蔵さんを見れば、ほんの数年間であっても彼がいかに彼女を深く愛したか伺い知ることができるでしょう。
Were you involved in the birth of the third Beatrice? Perhaps a secret. A secret,
そうですね。
そして娘のためにクワドリアンを作ったというわけか。
金蔵さんは潜水艦の黄金を元手に巧みに立ち回り、たちまちのうちに財産を築き上げていきました。また持ち前の英語力を生かし GHQ に強いコネクションを作って、みるみるうちに大富豪となられたのです。この辺はリオンさんに説明する必要はありますまい。
ええ、その莫大な財産で六軒島を買い取り屋敷を建てます。小田原の親族たちは無人島を丸ごと買い取ったおじい様を酔狂だと笑ったそうです。
10トンの黄金がポケットに収まる大きさだったなら、金蔵も島を買わなかったろうよ。
He hid the gold somewhere in Rokkenjima, built up a fortune with the ingots he'd taken out of it, and then brought up the whole treasure island.
ですな。そして後宮家の黄金伝説が始まるのです。
インゴットには片翼のワシが刻印されていたと聞くが、
片翼のワシというよりは片翼に見えてしまうワシというべきでしょうな。
Was it printed afterwards? No, that must have come with the Caliguliosto family.
それはどういう意味ですか？
ヨーロッパに多いでしょう。翼を広げたワシを紋章にしたものは、サロ共和国の国旗にもワシが、いや鷹でしたかなが刻まれています。
So it was truly the Salar Republic's gold.
刻印が薄かった、あるいは粗雑だったということか。
そうです。戦時下の粗雑な刻印でした。本来は翼を広げたワシの紋章が刻印されるべきだったのでしょう。それがちょうど斜めに断ち切ったように半分薄れて消えていたのです。
翼を広げたワシが半分消えて、それが片翼のワシに見えた。
金蔵は自分の運命を大きく変えたベアトリーチェの黄金に片翼のワシを見て、それを自分の紋章とすることを決めたに違いあるまい。
果たして正しく刻印されていたなら、それは共和国旗の鷹だったのか、それともまさか相当の、いやそんなまさか。
Oh shit.
あの莫大な黄金の山の前で金蔵さんと杯を傾け合いながら黄金ロマンで夜を明かすのはなかなかに楽しいことでした。もっとも金蔵さんはその刻印から黄金の出所を探られることを嫌いましてな。外部に持ち出す黄金にはわざわざ自分の片翼のワシをデザインした別の刻印を打ち直していたようですが。
お前には見せるだけだったのか。金蔵もケチだな。
無論大富豪になった後、金蔵さんは再び私のもとへ訪れ、未払いだった治療費をしっかり払ってくれましたとも。治療費にはちと多すぎましたのでな、ちゃんとお釣りを払いましたが。
それ以来おじい様と交流を？
そうです。金蔵さんは私が秘密を守ってベアトリーチェをかくまったことをことのほか深く感謝してくれましてな。
おじい様はかつての小田原の親族たちは欲深の嘘つきばかりだとおっしゃっていました。南條先生の義理堅さが嬉しかったに違いありません。おじい様のような方がどうしてあなたにだけは心を開いたのか わかる気がします。
私にも多少の異国趣味とチェスの趣味がありましてな。金蔵さんとは以来意気を統合しまして、こうして細々と、しかし気づけば随分と長くお付き合いをさせてもらっています。
大きな金を扱うやつほど小さな金にもきっちりしてる。治療費以上をもらおうとしなかったあんたの律儀さに惹かれるところもあったんだろうよ。
とんでもない。大きなお金に怯えてしまっただけです。後になってから後悔しましたとも。どうにも昔から肝が小さいものでしてな。
そんなことはね。肝は十分に不定さ。
そうでしょうか。お世辞でも嬉しいですな。
世辞じゃね
え。For at least the whole year after Kinzo's death, Nanjo had taken part in hiding the secret of that death. Of course, not he must have given him some hush money. Still, there was no doubt that he had enough guts to withstand pressure from Kinzo's children for a long time without slipping up once.
大した肝っ玉じゃねえか。義理がたいのがお前の性分なんだろうよ。
それしか取り柄がないものでして。
おじい様は良い友人に恵まれたと思います。
Oh. The birth of Beatrice.
おじい様にとってベアトリーチェという女性がどれほど人生の大部分を占めてきたか分かった気がします。
何も分かってなんかいねえ。ベアトリーチェを誰が殺したか、それが分からなきゃ俺たちはいつまでもここから出られねえ。
そうでしたね。早く終わらせなければ葬儀はもう終わっているのですからね。
ちげえな。葬儀なんだこれがな。
私たちのさせられていることがですか？
これまでに聞いたどのベアトリーチェも殺されてなどいない。それを俺たちが殺されたことにしようとしている。ベルンカステルにとってはこれこそが本当の葬儀なんだ。
誰も殺されたことを知らない。それを私たちが暴こうとしている。
お前つくづく察しがいいな。仮想の駒と話してるとは思えん。
A piece from a lower plane.
俺のワトソン役として与えられた駒だからか。
相棒を駒呼ばわりとは失礼な方ですさ。次は何を？ウィラード・ホームズ？
捜査の基本は聞き込みだろう。まだ聞くべきベアトリーチは残っている。
The Beatrice from the rumors. Oh, Jessica is here. Oh no, what but she, what would be her? Maria seemed to be lecturing the others about something. To indicate whom they should talk next, Will nodded in the direction of George, Jessica, and Maria.
へえ、すごいんだね、ベアトリーチェは。
伏せたカップの中にね、魔法でキャンディーをいっぱい生み出してくれたの。
The third Beatrice.
伏せたカップの中に？そりゃすげえぜ。
No. Beatrice Caligrios, Beatrice the daughter. And then the granddaughter, Shannon. And then there is the Beatrice of the rumors, which is probably Shannon in disguise.
確かに魔法だ。
マリアちゃんは魔女とか魔法とかそういうものが大好きですから。
魔女の権威に話を聞かないわけにはいかねえな。
When looking for someone to ask about Beatrice, Maria rose to the top of the list. The Beatrice she spoke of wasn't the real Beatrice, the one Kinzo and the others talked about. However, here and now, on the Rokkenjima of 1986, the name Beatrice probably refers to the person Maria is always talking about.
バトラの姿が見えないな。
Oh yeah. I noticed. I guess Burke Castle doesn't want him interfering. For sure, me a battler. The one who was forced to fight as Beatrice's opponent in many games. The most important person is in this game, in this tale. A battler in this world. A probably be the peace version. Even so, it should be possible to get some vital information out of him. We'll probably want to talk about the battler too. He was nowhere to be seen in the cousins group.
バトラ君は今回の葬儀には欠席しています。最も年の近いいとことして残念です。
仲はいいのか？
ええ、もちろん。
バトラが何かスケベな出現をするたびに尻をつねってるんだろ。
おや、よくご存知で。推理は可能でしたか？
バトラに同情する。
Berncastle say that everything we needed was gathered here. Since Battler isn't here, there's probably means it's possible to find out everything without asking for his side of the story. Or maybe she intentionally hidden the core elements and making us take the long way around. It's part of some fickle witch's game.
いねえってことは、とりあえず今は奴の話を聞く必要はねえってことだろう。マリアたちに話を聞こう。スケベな話はしねえからな。尻をつねるんじゃねえぞ。
ならほんの少し言葉を選ぶだけでいいのに。
A roguish smile. Leon pinched the air, index finger against the middle.
おや、次期当主様だぜ。クソジジイの介護はもういいのかよ。
Oh, what? At least Leon wasn't partial. No mercy even for Jessica. Dude, you're going to prison. Dude, I don't know what. I don't know the gender. I still don't know it. Will felt a bit gratified.
そうか。クラウスの子で次期当主ということは、ジェシカは妹に当たるんだな。
So she doesn't have the pressure of being the successor anymore. To at least the Cross's side of things. He was so used to Jessica being the only child that though the scuffle between the two looked perfectly normal, something didn't feel quite right about it.
ジェシカ、もう少し妹らしい言葉遣いはできないのかい？ついでに言うと、もう少し年頃の女性らしい言葉遣いにも気をつけてみるべきだね。あと、次期当主様なんて呼び方は嫌いだっていつも言ってるよ。
うせえぜ。私は私らしく生きちゃら。次期当主様みてえにお上品に生きてたら息が詰まっちまわ。
Oh, is she jealous?
やめて、つねんないで。妹いじめ、変態、反対、痛い。
ジェシカ、お客様もいらしているというのに、どうして君はそういう言葉遣いなんだ？また母さんに言いつけられたいかな？
あれはあれで仲睦まじいな。
リオンは次期当主として火の打ちどころのない素晴らしい人だからね。ま、素晴らしすぎてジェシカちゃんの気持ちもちょっぴりわかるかな。
何をしても比較される。だからグレると？
もしジェシカちゃんが一人っ子として生まれてたら、きっと落ち着きのある真相の映像になってたと思う。それは面白い想像だね。
安心しろ。あの性格は一人っ子でも変わらねえ。
庄司お兄ちゃん、この人誰？
Oh, I missed Maria so much.
あなたとは初対面ですよね。でも後ろ宮家にはお詳しそうだ。僕はジョージ、彼女はマリア。よろしく。
ウィルだ。ベアトリーチェについて調べている。知っていることを聞かせてほしい。
ベアトリーチェ？ほらね、ベアトリーチェはいるの。
Now Maria had looked hostile towards this unfamiliar man. As soon as she heard the name of the witch she loved pass his lips, her eyes began to sparkle.
ほら、マリアちゃん、お客様にちゃんとご挨拶をしないと。こん
にちは。後ろ宮マリアと申します。ベアトリーチェを知ってる人がいて嬉しい。握手を。
Maria suddenly stuck out her small hand and Will reached for it reflexively. Oh. As soon as he did, he felt the bright light seeped out from the gap between their hands. The theater-going power that Berncastle had given him had affected Maria.
ベアトリーチェはね、ロッケン島の魔女なの。いつもね、マリアがロッケン島に来るたびに一緒に遊んでくれるの。マリアのね、一番のお友達で、マリアージュ・ソルシエールの仲間なの。
The light grew brighter and brighter. time he could feel himself being drawn to Maria's world. Oh. How is this going to play out? I'm Ushrumiya Maria. My name is Rosa. My mama is Rosa. My papa? I don't have a papa. I think I remember Mama showing me a picture long ago and saying, "This is your papa." It was a picture of a man with a dark suntan on a beach wearing a swimsuit. Later on, I learned what papa meant. I asked Mama to show me that picture again, but she said it didn't exist. But it had to have existed. When I drew a picture of it and showed it to Mama, she got really mad and said it didn't exist, or that if it did, she had already thrown it away. Ever since then, she kept saying that I didn't have a papa.
知ってる？パパとママがいないと赤ちゃんができないって言われてるけど、それは嘘なんだよ。
少女解体か。
What the hell?
ミヨ、乙女が身ごもって男の子を産むであろう。その名はインマヌエルなり。マリアはもし男の子に生まれていたなら、それが名前だったかもしれない。
マタイ伝1章20節。
違うよ、23節。20節はかくてこれらを思い巡らすとき、御使いが夢に現れていった。
Completely omniscient.
ダビデの子ヨセフよ、妻マリアを迎えることを恐れるな。その腹に宿るものは精霊によるものなり。
お前の父親は精霊だというわけだ。
パパがいるのが当たり前だとみんなに言われた。パパがいないなんておかしい、変な子だ、かわいそうな子だと言われた。でもママに聞いてもパパなんかいない、知らない、存在しないと言われた。聞くだけで怒られて叩かれた。だからマリアは自分が誰から生まれたかよくわからなくなった。マリアは人間として正しくない、未熟で不正な存在、みんなとは違う、おかしな、かわいそうな子だと気がついた。
親も他人も関係ねえ。お前はお前だ。
それを未熟な幼児に教えるのはきっと難しかったろうね。ひょっとしたら幼稚園の先生はいじめられて泣く私にそう諭してくれたのかもしれない。でもそんな慰めでは私の心の空白、疑問、どんな言葉も私の疑問に答えてはくれなかった。
その疑問に答えたのがザ・ブックだというのか。
神父様がね、来たの。
Priest. It was probably part of some lesson to enrich the minds of children to an edifying tale. To most of the children, it was just an ordinary fairy tale they might have heard from one of their teachers. Actually, I think we were just bored because it was too hard to grasp. Then at the end, the priest says something important.
神は何でも知っているか。
だからマリアは聞いた。マリアにはママしかいない。パパはない。パパがなくてもマリアはママから生まれてきた。それはおかしくて悲しいことなのって。
Priest taught me there's nothing strange about a child having no papa. After all, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, and the one who gave birth to him was the Virgin Maria? I was surprised. Maria, the name I was given, had been showing me the answer all along.
だからマリアはびっくりして神父様に聞き直したの。聖母マリアは一人で赤ちゃんが産めたんだって。じゃあマリアも一人で赤ちゃんが産めるのって。
神父は何と答えた？
聖母マリアが赤ちゃんを身ごもれたのは聖霊のおかげだからって。マタイ伝1節20章講談。その腹に宿るものは聖霊によるものなり。またまたマリアはびっくりした。これはどういうことだと思う？
お前はこう解釈した。後宮マリアには人間の父はいない。本当の父は聖霊だと。
Regardless of the Bible's original meaning, this young, sad girl whose lack of a father had caused her to lose her sense of identity had finally created a way to understand herself.
それを知った時、私はなぜ他の子たちと自分だけが違うのかを理解したの。私をバカにするみんなはヨセフの子。でも私だけは違った。私はみんなより劣ってなんかいない。私は神の子、精霊の子だった。帰ってママに話したよ。マリアにはパパなんていない。ママはママで、マリアは神様の力で生まれてきたんだよって。
And she was happy about it. It's very painful for Rosa when Maria asked about her father. Why did Maria have no papa when everyone else had a papa and a mama? Every time she was asked this, Rosa fell into rage and changed the subject. And for some reason, and all her own, Maria had found an answer that satisfied her. She had no papa. She was the child of Mama and God. It wasn't too difficult to imagine that Rosa, after hearing this young girl's explanation, might go along with it as though it was true.
ベアトは宇宙を生み出す最小の人数を2人だと言った。私はこれを両親がいないと子はなせないという意味だと感じた。その時私は思ったの。ベアトは魔女だけれど人間から生まれた魔女なんだって。ベアトは精霊の子じゃない。でも私は違う。ママだけから生まれた。精霊から生まれた。ベアトは私と一緒じゃなきゃ宇宙を作れない。でも私は、神は我らと共にある。私一人でも精霊と共に宇宙が作れる。ベアトは私を原初の魔女と呼んだ。そしてやがては一人で全てを生み出せる造物主になれるよと言ってくれた。私が一人で無から有を創造する。
True omnipotence, then.
それをベアトが無限に膨らませる。園児はそれを受け継ぎ、語り広げる魔女の使徒だった。
マリアージュ・ソルシエルか。
Well, I see the microscopic scale and then the macroscopic scale as
1と無限
well.
は大きく違う。だからベアトは偉い。でも無と有の前には1も無限も同じ有でしかない。私は世界で一番の魔女。世界で一番偉い造物主になることを約束されていた子。マリアージュ・ソルシエールはそんな私を温める卵の巣。私は後ろ宮マリア、神と共にあるマリア。
And then Angie fucked it all up. Oh no. If you liken Maria's sense of identity to a new universe, then this endless stream of worlds and this endless stream of words coming from her might be like the Big Bang. I spent long turning over how to interpret her lack of father, and by chance she saw a line in the Bible that looked like it secretly referred to her, and she finally formed an understanding for herself. That sad girl who had hated herself for being different from all her classmates finally found a meaning for her existence. At that moment, Maria's universe, which had once been nothingness, was born as a clump of ultra-hot, ultra-high-pressure energy. Then later on, she went to Rokkenjima, met the endless witch who called herself Beatrice. The clump of energy exploded in a big bang, finally giving birth to their magical compendium. That was the universe known as the Mariage Sorcière.
話が少し飛躍しすぎだ。順を追う。
うん、いいよ。どこから？
自分は精霊の子だと解釈したお前が、そこから次第にオカルトに傾倒していくことは容易に理解できる。そこからだ。そんなお前がベアトリーチェとどこで出会い、どのように交流していったか。
She met her in Ecuadorian, didn't she?
それは本当にある日突然の唐突なこと。ロッケン島に住まうベアトリーチェという魔女に私は会ってみたかったの。同じ魔女として。
その頃にはもう自分が魔女という自覚があったのか？
あった。その頃には聖書とオカルトでは大人にも負けないくらいの知識があったから。だから私は魔法は使えずとも自分を魔女だと信じてた。
And then you dragged Angie into it as well. Because you wanted a friend.
だから私は魔女見習いなの。
いつベアトリーチェと出会った？
よくは覚えてない。でもその出会いはよく覚えてる。それはとてもとても唐突だった。
Oh, it was not an Ecuadorian.
そなたが後ろ宮マリアか。
It was so very sudden. I was just drinking some milk tea all alone in the Rose Garden Arbor. Mama said she had to talk about something important with Uncle Cross, so she told me to go outside and play. Suddenly she was sitting right there. I didn't know anyone who spoke that way. I quickly realized that she was someone I didn't know at all.
あなたは誰？
会いたいと言ったのはそなただ。わらわの島に魔女が訪ねてくるから出迎えてやったというのに、そなたはわらわの名を問うというのか？
Oh, I miss Beatrice. Oh, the real one. Ah, I missed her so much.
ベアトリーチェ？
いかにも、わらわがベアトリーチェである。
確かに唐突だな。
うん、とっても。魔女や精霊はいつだって私たちのそばにいる。彼らが姿を見せようとしないだけで、そして彼らが姿を見せたなら、それはあまりに唐突に、そして当たり前にそこにいる。私はそれをまさに知ったの。
そしてベアトリーチェと友達に？
うん、彼女はママの用事が終わるまでずっと私とおしゃべりをしてくれた。魔法の話や魔女の話、マリアが精霊の子であることも。
その時のベアトリーチェの印象は？
こう言っては悪いけど、知識だけなら私が上だった。最初は彼女のことを大した魔女じゃないと見下しかけた。まあそれは私のうぬぼれ。魔法体験にはいろんなものがある。ましてや私のそれは独学。ベアトの魔法体系とは異なったから、私が一方的にそういう印象を持ってしまったんだろうね。すぐにそれを後悔して謝ることになるの。
謝る？ベアトリーチェが何かお前の尊敬を勝ち取ることをしてみせたのか？
The little magic trick.
なるほど、魔法を見せたというわけか。
Moved to the beach and talked lots, sitting at a table under an umbrella.
なるほど、マリア、そなたは実に勤勉だ。その年で千年の魔女のわらわにそれだけの講釈をできるとは、実に尊敬に値する。してそなたは何の魔法を使えるのか？
魔法？
そなたが魔女を語るならば、魔法の一つも見せられるであろうが。
I was stunned for a second. Of course, it should have been obvious. I was a child of the Holy Ghost, and since I've studied so much of the occult, I was also a witch, not a human. Until that day, I've been so sure of both those things. So when I asked what sort of magic, I was asked what sort of magic I could use, it left me in a daze.
魔法を知り、語るに至ってようやく見習いよう。そしてそれを魔法という形で実践できてこそ魔女というものではないか？
マリアはまだ魔女じゃないの？
よく学んでいる。そして類いまれな才能も感じる。そなたはやがてわらわなど足元にも及ばぬ偉大な魔女。
Shannon putting a lot of hopes into Maria, huh?
あるいはそなたが言うように造物主の座にさえ上り詰めるだろう。しかしまだ幼く若い。そなたはそう見習いだ。魔女の見習いというところよ。
じゃあベアトは魔法を使うことができるの？
無論であるとも。魔法を使えずして魔女を名乗ることなどできぬわ。
すごい。見せて、ベアトの魔法見せて。
Till this day, Maria had never doubted the magic-themed idea that she was the child of the Holy Ghost. However, no one had ever proven to her that the occult phenomenon actually existed. Maria could create a universe all by herself. However, she wanted to share it with a second person, so that she could believe in it even more strongly.
かつてのわらわならば空に虹をかけ、それを七色のキャンディーに変えて自由にかじらせることもできた。しかし今のわらわは姿を保つことさえ満足にできぬほどに衰えている。
さっき聞いた、あの鎮守の社のせいで力が出せないって。
力を取り戻すにはかなりの時間をかける。虹をキャンディーにしてやることは今はできぬ。しかしささやかな魔法にてその一端を見せることはできようぞ。
見たい、ベアトの魔法見たい。
よかろう。しかしそなたにも協力を求めねばならぬぞ。先ほども言った。いかにそなたが汚れなき魂を持とうとも、人間はもはや汚れ、魔法を拒む毒素に満ちていると。
聞いた。半魔法の毒素があるって聞いた。マリアの読んだ本には載ってなかった。だからそれを知ってるベアトはすごい。
Beatrice lifted up an empty teacup, then turned it around in front of Maria to show that there weren't any magic tricks or strings.
伏せたカップにキャンディーが現れる魔法か。
どうしてわかるの？ウィルはすごいね。魔女の使う魔法もわかるんだね。
魔女の魔法の基本だからな。
カップは何の仕掛けもない普通のカップだったよ。私は見たかった。本当の魔法を見たかった。
And Erica performed it as well. There was a thing Maria desired, to strengthen her belief that there was an occult side to her. She wanted to see the occult side herself as well, outside herself as well. That's why she agreed to help Beatrice with her magic. She didn't want her own toxin to ruin her chance of learning the miracles of magic.
よいぞ。さあ、そのカップを開けてみるがいい。
キャンディーだ。
わらわからそなたへの挨拶代わりと新しき魔女との出会いと友情にそれを贈ろう。
This was a true miracle of magic. For the first time I felt shame and embarrassment at my conceit. I could feel the sense of omnipotence disappear. The idea that I was a child of the Holy Ghost and the most important and special person in the world. Instead of a child of the Holy Ghost who can't actually do anything, I'd rather be a witch who can use magic. Sure, Mia Maria wants to become a witch, starting off as a witch apprentice. I was already fascinated by Beato.
マリアも本当の魔女になりたい。ベアトの弟子になりたい。
謙遜を。そなたには十分な才能と日々の精進があるぞ。それにかつての力のあるわらわならともかく、この程度の魔法しか使えぬ衰えたわらわでは弟子を持つことなどできぬわ。
マリアは魔女の弟子にはなれない？
わらわの弟子にはできぬ。しかし友人にはできる。
本
当？わらわとそなたはこれより友人だ。これからも共に深き魔女の世界を語り合おうではないか。
ベアト、ありがとう。このベアトのキャンディー食べてもいい？
いいや、それは土産にせよ。食べずにそなたの可愛らしいカバンに収めよ。
お家で食べる。
マリア、そのキャンディーは魔法で生み出されたものだ。ゆえに脆い。そなたがわらわの存在をその毒素で否定したなら溶けて消えてしまうだろう。
おお、嫌だ。ベアトからもらった大切な魔法消えるの嫌だ。
ならばわらわという魔女に出会ったことを決して忘れてはならぬぞ。そなたが わらわとのささやかな約束を守る限り、そなたがまたこの島へ来るときは再びわらわがそなたを迎えよう。
Was this Shannon before the or right during where the portrait was made? Maybe. Maybe she was posing for a painter with these clothes. I don't know. Maybe.
約束って何？
まずはそうだな。家へ帰ったら手を洗う、うがいをする。めんどくさがってはならぬぞ。魔女見習いの立派な修行の一つであるぞ。
守る！毎日お家に帰ってきたら手を洗う、うがいをする。そうしたらまた会ってくれる？
約束しようぞ。そなたがわらわとの約束をきっちり守れたなら、そなたの体は清められ、わらわもさらに魔力を取り戻す。さすれば次に来るときはより素晴らしい魔法を見せようぞ。
約束守る、絶対。マリアはなる。ベアとの友達になって魔女見習いになる。
良き心がけであるぞ、後ろ宮マリアよ。そなたが早く一人前の魔女になってわらわの良き友人に成長してくれることを心より願っている。
Rejoice, Beatrice. Your friendship become a source of strength and also pain for Maria
これが
in the
私
future.
の初めてのベアトリーチェとの出会いだったと思う。
そのもらった飴は家に帰ってもちゃんとあったか？
うん。でもその存在を少しだけ疑ったから飴は溶けかかっていた。私は彼女を疑いかけたことを後悔したよ。もしもっと疑っていたら飴は消えてなくなっていたに違いない。そしたら私は目の当たりにした魔法の奇跡の証拠を失うところだった。
飴が溶けていたのか？
飴というよりはキャラメルだったと思う。溶けかかってぐにゃぐにゃだった。
それは何月頃の話だ？
詳しく覚えてない。でもミルクティーがアイスだったことは覚えてる。それが何？
なんでもない。ベアトリーチェに出会ったことはローザには話したのか？
うん。その日のお夕飯の時にみんなに話した。クラウスおじさんに笑われた。そしたら隣の席のママにその話は終わりにしなさいって怒られた。
隣の席？序列上お前の席はローザと隣り合わないはずだ。
親族会議じゃないもん。ママとマリアだけが訪ねた時の話だから、クラウスおじさん一家全員とママとマリアしかいない。席は詰めるから親族会議の時とはお席がちょっと違うの。
うん。お前の隣の席にローザだったんだな。
うん。それが何？
なんでもない。ベアトリーチェとロッケンジマ以
Rosa
外で会
was
ったこと
sitting
は
next to her.
ないよ。だってベアとは体が希薄で自由には動けないんだもの。
Yeah.
マリアの体に乗り移ってもいいよって言ったけど、島からは離れられないからできないって言ってた。
その後はロッケン島へ行くたびに会っていたということか？
うん。私たちは大の仲良しになった。ベアトと話せば話すほどに彼女は本当にすごい魔女だと思い知ったよ。彼女は会うたびにいつも素敵な魔法を見せてくれた。そして私とは異なる魔法体系を聞かせてくれて、二人で魔法の深淵を語り合ったよ。私は早く彼女の高みに登りたいと思った。ベアトのような魔女の域に達したいと願った。
ベアトリーチェを母親に紹介したことは？
ないよ。ママは毒素が強すぎるからまだ会えないって言ってた。
Oh shit. Look at her face.
大人はほとんどダメだって。みんな汚れてるから。
Hide the pain, Maria. Hide the pain.
お前以外にベアトリーチェの姿を見ることができた者はいるのか？
最初は無理だった。魔力が弱いからね。毒素に少しでも近づくと 体が壊れてしまうって。でも次第に魔力を蓄えてマリア以外の毒素の少ない人の前にも現れられるようになったよ。
それは誰だ？
Angie？
あんまり多くない使用人の一部の人だけだった。
具体的には？
今日いる使用人全員。合田さんは違うと思う。
つまり源氏、シャノン、カノン、熊沢の4人ということか。
あと南條先生も。
How was Beatrice shown to Shannon? Apparently they would sometimes come to visit Maria and Beatrice's witch tea parties. Of course, they only have come by for minor things like bringing some more tea. However, they were certainly aware of Beatrice and even talked with her.
使用人たちはベアトリーチェとはどう接していた？存在しないはずの客人だ。驚いたりはしないのか？
しないよ。だってベアトリーチェはお屋敷のもう一人の主だもの。
She said that the servants treated Beatrice as an honored guest. Sometimes they were permitted to witness new miracles of magic along with Maria.
つまり1986年のロッケン島でベアトリーチェに実際に会えたのはゴーダを除く使用人4人とお前と南條の合計6人だけだった。
What about Angie?
ベアトもそれ以外の人の前に現れるにはもっともっと魔力を蓄える必要があると言ってた。
つまりそれ以外の人間の前にもやがては姿を現すつもりだったわけ
And eventually Battler too.
すべての人間たちに自分を認めさせる日こそが自分の復活の日だって言ってた。
Maria, the servants, and Nanjo had acknowledged her. She had probably appeared before new humans one by one, starting with those anti-magic toxin was weakest. Beatrice's game was to increase the number of humans who could recognize her until she could make everyone on the island acknowledge her. I think she wasn't looking for everyone, but most specifically Battler, right? That there cannot be no doubt. In that case, the last person Beatrice needed to appear in front of would be Battler, the one who said that have the strongest anti-magical power. Does this mean Beatrice thought Battler would be the hardest to convince? It seems true that Battler was one of Beatrice's goals. However, if we go by that chessboard thinking Battler loves so much, Beatrice trying to make people acknowledge her existence, therefore you might say that she's a character who can't exist unless people acknowledge her. Battler reached this idea himself as soon as the first game. Yes, there's something different about the Beatrice of 1986. She's different from the Italian Beatrice, or the Ecuadorian Beatrice, both of whom certainly did exist. Beatrice of 1986, the one we're so familiar with in a mysterious way, yet who has no existence. What does it mean to kill this Beatrice who has no existence? Minimum number of people required to create a universe is 2. However, Maria said that even a single person could give birth to a universe. Yet Maria desired the second person to nurture the world she had given birth to it alone. Because if it was born and not nurtured, it would die and disappear? Let's replace the word universe with Beatrice. Minimum number of people required to create Beatrice is 2. However, even a single person could give birth to her, and yet that single person desired a second person to acknowledge the Beatrice created by the first person. That meaning with the second person is the scene Maria had just described. The single person who created Beatrice looked for a second person to acknowledge Beatrice, and selected Maria. We don't need a furor or Erica's heartless reasoning to know that the teacup magic was a sleight of hand. Maria, believing the story about the anti-magic toxin, would close her eyes whenever magic happened. Any sleight of hand would be possible while she had her eyes closed. Caramel Maria had been given to as proof of her meeting with the witch had melted a little because Maria had doubted A season where one was likely to put ice in their tea, it was only natural for a caramel to left in the back to melt. Sure, Mia Maria, the girl who's too trusting and will accept the story easily. Beatrice appeared first in front of this girl, who had, in the language of witches, very little of the anti-magic toxin. The creation of Beatrice can be thought of as an egg being laid. When a single person creates her, it's little more than a daydream, still inside the egg. If and only if a second person acknowledges her, the shell will crack and she'll appear. She'll only appear if a second person comes to warm the egg. When Maria acknowledged Beatrice, she finally hatched, and the chick was born. In that case, Maria's sorcière, which nurtured Beatrice and her magical compendium, was like a nest. This is Beatrice, a woman with a dignified presence who calls herself the Witch of Rokkenjima, and who claims to have lived 1,000 years. That sounds less like the chick Beato who appeared in the previous game, and more like the Beato the Elder. So, did the meeting of Maria had just recounted mark the birth of Beato the Elder? The egg itself had already been created by the first person. Between then and the meeting with Maria, it matured immensely inside the shell into a character, the dignified presence of 1,000 years. Then, when Maria acknowledged it, it had hatched. The Witch of Rokkenjima finally gained a form. Perhaps that moment marks the birth of the Beatrice of 1986. The younger chick Beato was born out of love for Battler. Since that birth hadn't yet occurred at this point in time, the birth of Beato the Elder and the existence of Beatrice at this moment must have nothing to do with Battler. Are you enjoying this reasoning, Burn Castell? If you are, let's at least have some applauses from the spectators. Great, thanks a bunch.
マリアはベアトに魔法で叶えてほしい願いがたくさんあるの。だからベアトが復活するのに協力してる
の。願いとは何だ？
いっぱいある。内緒。
黒き魔女からママを守ってほしいか。
どうしてウィルは何でもわかるの？すごいよ。
魔女に願わねば取り戻せない世界だとお前はもう思っているのか。
うん。ママは大好き、優しい。いつまでも一緒にいたい、永遠に。
今度はマリアージュ・ソルシエルについて聞きたい。どうした？
やだ。
何？
私、喉が渇いちゃったからジュース飲んでくる。またね。
Maria became suddenly formal, bowed her head, and left without waiting for a reply. Angie is still a sore spot, huh? It was a very un-Maria-like thing to do. I see. So the game master had moved the piece. Apparently she's telling me to ask about something different. Oh. At some point, Leon started chatting with the other family members. Jessica seemed to be getting irritated at having her butt pinched so much, and George was trying to calm her down. Jessica and George, guess I'll hear their stories next. Compared to Maria, the anti-magic toxin is very strong in these two. At least at the beginning of the other games, they didn't acknowledge Beatrice. Maria showed me the point of view of one who believes. Now, to hear from those who don't. Oh. I think I'm ending this sesh here. So, yeah, I do enjoy Leon a lot, and I'm also I'm also liking Willard as like the solver. I'd say they're clear A rank characters, but yeah. It's a pity Battler isn't here though. I do want Rudolph and Kyrie to. I do wonder about Rudolph a lot. And Ava as well, kind of. Yeah. Kinzo surprised me a lot. He was exactly like what Battler would do when he was younger, I guess. And in that position, of course, Battler would never pick up books, but well, that's how it goes, I guess. Thanks for watching.